Hello and welcome to Trial TV Live. I am the Squeegee of Justice. Thank you so much for joining us today on this very special stream. We have our very own Psychosaurus Rex, who is a clinical and forensic psychologist, and she will be joining us to, let me just make sure. She will be joining us to break down the pathology that is Morgan Geyser and the Slender Man stabbing case against Peyton Leutner. So, bring your questions, settle in, get cozy. I know it's cold out there for a lot of you. We will be taking questions. We have a lot of questions from the two streams that we did yesterday and today. So we will be asking Rex those questions. And please, if you have any questions, make sure you do a QQQ so that Aaron will be pulling those down for us and we will be able to get to those and answer those questions for you guys. So with that, Rex, are you ready? Yay, and get out of my water, please. How are you?
I am doing well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I've got kittens all around me. They're drinking out of my mug. They're chewing on my cord. So if we go down, I can't blame Comcast. I can blame kittens.
There you go.
So welcome in. Welcome in. Why don't you let's start by telling our audience. I know a lot of people know you as one of our moderators, and also dropping some great answers and perspective while we watch these trials. But specifically as it pertains to not guilty, reason of insanity cases that we've covered, starting with Carlos, of course. Bianca's another one. But now with Morgan Geyser, we're doing a rewatch of her. And I know that you have a lot to say in chat. So let's start with you just letting us know what your background is, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully it sounds like I know what I'm talking about. I do have a lot to say in chat. So I am a clinical and forensic psychologist. I went to undergrad in the Midwest and got a degree in psychology. And then I got my master's degree down in Southern California in clinical psychology. And then I got my doctorate up in Northern California in psychology. So I have a PsyD, which is a doctorate of psychology specifically. And my general practice, I guess you could say, I work with folks who have been adjudicated not guilty by reason of insanity. So I see these people every single day. And then on the side is the more forensic side, where I do evaluations for various courts across the state of California for pretrial things. So, competency to stand trial, mental health diversion options. I do juvenile psychological evaluations, juvenile competency, kind of everything that I'm able to do. I don't take anything related to custody matters because that's just too messy for me. And then I can't take insanity evaluations anymore because that's what I do in my regular job. And so the conflict of interest would be, I could opine someone, to meet the insanity statute just to have them as a patient to keep our hospital going, that kind of a thing.
Sure.
So I don't do those anymore, but I did do those out in the Midwest, where I'm licensed in California, I'm licensed in the Midwest, and I'm licensed in the Southeast as well. So kind of all over doing all sorts of things. Yeah. Right. Yep. So that's me in a nutshell.
Okay, fantastic. I know we have a lot of questions, and I don't want to ask you questions first and foremost because I think some of the questions will be answered already. So let's just dive right into it. Before we get to questions, though, I just want your general overall 30,000 foot interpretation, if you will, of Morgan Geyser, where we stand right now, what you understand of her, what you've seen us watch. We've watched her 3 hearings so far. We've done 3 hearings, one from, let me just pull those up. The first was February 1st of 2018. So actually, let me back up. So this happened in 2014. The stabbing happened in 2014. The girls were 12 years old. Morgan was the one that stabbed Peyton Leutner, and Anissa Weier was the one that held her down, I suppose. So Peyton was stabbed 19 times by Morgan. And it was all had to do with Slender Man, and they wanted to appease him and the whole creepypasta thing. And I'm not going to get into that because we've been covering that, in our daytime streams. So that's sort of the back, just quick overview of that. So now Morgan, fast forward, Morgan's been arrested in 2014 at 12 years old. Her first hearing to get out of, well, first she was found guilty, then she was found guilty by reason of insanity. So she was in prison from 2014 to 2018. So 4 years pass, and then she wants to get out, right? So she has these hearings. So the first one was February 1st of 2018, right? We watched that one. The next one was, let's fast forward to April 11th of 2024. So 2018 to 2024. And then the one we're currently watching is from January of 2025. So based on all of that, what are your overall impressions of her? And we'll dive deeper into it as we go on, but just like generally, what do you think of her? And I'll just go ahead and tell me what you think.
Yeah, I mean, I swear the more we are like watching this, and this is probably the maybe third, if not fourth time that I have watched these things.
Okay.
At least maybe not in like totality of each hearing, but I know I've watched the full hearings at least a couple times. And then of course there's clips everywhere and you can search little parts and all of that. And, as we're really, diving back into this and focusing more, and it allows me to really pick out, I think, more nuances, or like I always have new questions every single time, which is kind of what I do for my job anyway. But
yeah.
I almost I don't really know what to make of her in terms of what is going on. It's what stands out the most to me is this, which I think, stands out to pretty much everybody that has been in chat and watching with us and talking about this, is this whole psychosis and then no psychosis without medication. And I think, I don't know how many folks in here have watched her interrogation tapes, but there, even right at the beginning of those, there's some interesting stuff that we have heard about from these evaluators that just really leaves me with more questions. So one that really stood out to me, for example, was the officer tells her, and this is when, I believe, like right when she was arrested and brought in for questioning. So the officer says like something about her being an intelligent girl. She says like, yes, I read a lot about this stuff. I read a lot of books. And he asks her what kind. She says, I read a lot of medical dictionaries, Harry Potter, Star Trek, and then it's kind of unintelligible because, police department footage is not the best.
Right.
But what's interesting is the Harry Potter thing, because at least one of her evaluators talks about how she then started to report thinking that these Harry Potter characters are her friends. But when she first talks about it with this officer, it's just part of this random list of things she enjoys reading, along with dry medical texts, Star Trek, and, whatever else she said. And so it's like, if that were a delusion she was having, how did that start when it didn't start while she's reading all these books? And why did it come up as she's being evaluated for getting out or for getting into a hospital versus prison, so for like her NGRI sentencing. So that I was just like, what? Like Harry Potter they weren't her little friends back then, but 3 years later they are. And it's similar in the way of, I think in the sentencing hearing, they mentioned that, she said that, or no, sorry, it was the interview with her mother. Her mom said, oh, Morgan told me that she didn't want to tell me about the voices because they were her friends. They were friendly. And she said, oh, you would do something about them so they would go away and she wouldn't have any friends.
Right.
But she tells evaluators that this Maggie is mean and says nasty things to her and this and that. And I'm like, but I thought you said your voices were so friendly, you didn't want them to go away. So which one is it?
Right.
And to be quite honest, the whole friendly thing, I'm not saying it's impossible. I have not had a single patient report to me ever having friendly voices. They are always incredibly distressing. They're mean. They're like this, like demoralizing. They say mean things about the person. They say that other people are saying mean things about you, like the worst things you could ever imagine. And so that part to me was like, wait a second, I've never heard of friendly voices. And that's actually a question I've had since I started learning about schizophrenia, you know, back in the day now, was like, why are all these voices mean? Like, why is
Right.
that a thing? And so, you know,
Right.
someone should write a dissertation on that if there is anybody out there in that phase of education.
Right.
But I don't know what to make of it, especially as they're saying, well, all of the data and observations supports that she definitely had symptoms. And so there's no way that she was faking, even though she tells us she was. And she's been on this medication holiday for 2 years or more now and not had a single symptom or a sign of one. That is something I've never heard of happening. Again, it's psychology, so it's not to say it's impossible. The human brain is a crazy place. I have just never heard of that unless it's substance induced. But even then, it's not a 3-year thing like she was saying it was, and then suddenly goes away. It's usually, if it's a substance induced psychosis, that goes away as soon as you're sober. Now, if it's meth can kind of mess up your brain, and you can have psychotic symptoms from that for like up to a year sometimes. Because meth is very serious, right? And if you use it more, obviously you're doing more harm. But without substances of any kind, I don't know. And this is why I kept typing in chat, like, will someone ask what they think is actually going on then? And then they moved into psychosis due to trauma, or, okay, but she's still now claiming trauma and gets her antidepressants and her anxiolytics, you know, and keeps reporting this, and PTSD stays on her record. So why isn't she having any indications of a psychotic disorder or psychotic features associated? Now, there are some disorders like, well, someone kind of asked about this, like schizoaffective disorder. So in a schizoaffective disorder, so it has the schizo part, so the psychotic part, the schizophrenia part, and then it has the affective part, which is the mood, which is, it can be bipolar or it can be a depressive type. So what you will see is a psychosis is like the predominant kind of feature, and then mood symptoms kind of come with that. So like a mania is what I tend to work with the most, is people with schizoaffective bipolar type. I think I've ever had one patient that had the depressive type. And then there's also bipolar with psychotic features, where they become psychotic when they're in a manic episode. And that one is kind of contingent upon one another, whereas schizoaffective, the mood stuff is, it doesn't have to be included with the psychosis, right? But either way, so it's just so interesting to me. And I hear where they're coming from with, well, all of the observations and all of the clinical data, and her treatment team for years, and all these people in the hospital are saying that she was showing all these signs. She was, you know, self-reporting all these things, and she was acting a certain way. Okay, I get that. But why is it that they just seem to not even entertain the possibility that she could be telling the truth about malingering? That's kind of my red flag, is like, why are you not even allowing this to be possible? And some of us have talked in chat, like, is it because she was so young that you are like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like discrediting her ability to malinger as a 12-year-old. It's like, okay, well, she's very sophisticated for a 12-year-old. Her intellectual functioning testing showed that. Granted, that was about 3 years later. But even in her police interview, the way she talks, and not just she sort of uses really like crisp emphasis as if she's trying to sound like very proper. But aside from that, the content of her speech, you can tell is like, it is certainly not how I was talking when I was 12. So, it's like, it is possible for someone who's 12 through whatever age to malinger. Now, oftentimes when kids malinger, something is actually going on. It's just not what they're faking, right? It's like if you have this sort of inner turmoil that is you're feeling depressed. For really young kids, it tends to come out as a tummy ache that has no discernible cause, medically speaking. Kids feel things very somatically. So like in their body, like, mommy, I have a tummy ache, when really they're sad.
Right.
But they can't explain that, right? They can't articulate it. But with Morgan, I think she could articulate it. And so that's what's also interesting to me. If something else was going on, why is she malingering to the extreme? But and we haven't heard this yet, I don't think. So there's stuff to come. And I think the hearing tomorrow that is like, oh, well, maybe that's why. But I just can't get a grasp on, okay, she said she malingered because she didn't. I feel like I've heard the evaluator say that she reported she malingered so that she didn't have to go home to be around her dad, who allegedly, essayed her. But that doesn't make sense, because she also then said she had to take Peyton's life so that her family wouldn't get hurt.
Right.
And so it's like, do you want to protect your family or do you want to hide from them? And I guess we know that people get attached to their abusers, right? We see it all the time in kids, and even, grown people. But I just have so many questions that I feel like a lot of them could be answered if they would have people who weren't so close to this case coming in and talking about it. And that's kind of another, as you said, like a 30,000 foot view is, why are they having the people who did her competency evaluations and her NGRI evaluations then do her readiness for release evaluations? And even I think one was like on her treatment team at some point, which I could be wrong about that, because they all have like so many roles, which I do too. So I get it. But it's like, if at some point you are finding a diagnosis change with every new evaluation you do, you can't quite answer questions and put your finger on things, like maybe you go and get a consultation with your colleagues. I mean, I hope they're doing that anyway. Like, what the heck is going on here? I know I do that when I'm in sort of a clinical conundrum. I will talk to my fellow psychologists and be like, okay, here's what I'm thinking. Can you bring me back down to earth, please? Or like tell me or validate me or something.
Sure.
It just really seems to me like they have a lot of, I don't want to say issues, because I'm not saying they're not ethical people. I think they're very ethical. Mendota especially is a very highly regarded forensic program, especially like for an APA internship and postdoc. So I know they do good work there. It's just confusing to me why they're having the same people doing multiple evaluations when, yes, it's pretty typical, at least, where I was doing evaluations, I would get a referral for competency. And then if they're competent, to go forward with the criminal responsibility, or which is also called NGRI. So I would do both of those. But I would never then be asked to do her readiness for release. That just, to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I certainly, even now at where I work now, like for my regular job, I don't even do diagnostic evaluations or assessments on my own patients, because I need another psychologist to come in and have fresh eyes to look at that. Because if I need to refer someone because I'm confused about their diagnosis, that means I probably shouldn't be the one looking at it, because I just want to confirm my own thoughts. Right. So blast out a referral to another psychologist, or we have a wait list for our wonderful interns, and usually they pick it up and then work with their supervisor on getting through that evaluation. And they'll just get collateral from me at most. Like, why did you refer this person? What are you seeing? Okay. And then they'll go ask like 10 or 20 other people. So I don't know why they're not doing that here. And
Right.
it's just so, especially after this many years, this many diagnostic changes, now with this autism stuff, now with this transgender stuff, it's like her diagnosis evolves as societal trends seem to evolve. And that's kind of concerning. And going back to the malingering part, I was thinking of this earlier too, is like, I don't know what their internet access was like there. I think I asked someone in chat about it. But like, our patients don't have access to the internet. So I have patients that have been in our hospital so long, they have never accessed the internet even one time in their life. It didn't exist when they were in the community, and now they're not allowed to. So yeah. And so there they seem, at least at this Winnebago place, I work at a place that sounds like it's more like Mendota than Winnebago. So maybe that's why, and maybe she does have a little bit more access, but it's just interesting that, anytime she has a hearing, it's something else. It's, saying, okay, no, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So then who's feeding her this information, right? Like, it's all over TV, and then I'm sure new incoming patients and stuff like that, but the timing is so interesting to me. And a couple people in chat pointed it out too. Like, her sentencing hearing, like, yes, she was so ill, but she's on meds and she's doing great now. So she can go to a lower level of care. She can go to the least restrictive environment. Okay. But she's still having symptoms and still struggling and whatever. And then fast forward to the next hearing. Oh, no symptoms at all. She's so much better, but she's still on meds, all these things. And, it's concerning that she refuses to get a job because, that doesn't interest me. And then next hearing, now she has multiple jobs. And now she also is saying, I take back my expression that I was malingering. Now I'm actually going to backpedal that and just say, I didn't understand what was going on with me. Meanwhile, in evaluations prior, they were saying she's developed good insight into what's going on with her. And so it's like, then fast forward to after she's denied, repetitions. Now she has autism. It's like,
Right.
So
I think I even said I was going to say, I think I even said in chat to somebody, pick a lane. Is it autism? Is it SA? Is it hearing voices? Schizophrenia? Like what is it? So I didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, and that's not to say it can't be all of them, right? Some people can just they can be tremendously ill, right? But the timing is questionable. The symptom presentation is questionable. The evaluators, who I know are very good at their jobs, are also seeming, at least from the outside perspective, right? I've not read their reports, obviously. I've obviously never met Morgan. I looked to see if their evaluations were public record, and somewhere said that they were, but I couldn't find them. And they were in open court, right? So they should be part of evidence. I would love to see, I said this like 2 or 3 times, I think, like, I want to see her FSIQ data, because it sounds to me like that's actually invalid based on one of the index scores. But we all know she's smart, and I would absolutely believe that she is an intelligent person, especially for her age. But it's like, we have all of these inconsistencies. A very unreliable historian is kind of our psychobabble speak with that. And then clinicians who want to see what they are at work to see, which is symptoms and improvement of symptoms. Admittedly, like, I work in these environments. I know what it's like. So when someone comes in and they're malingering, you're like, no, let's just see. Like, no, they wouldn't get past the court system. They wouldn't get past our evaluators. I personally had a patient who was in the hospital for years who malingered. He got past all of it. And
Wow.
he was, granted, he wasn't a child and he was very skilled and probably high on the psychopathy scale, but he did it, right? And
Mhm.
so it's certainly possible. And someone like Morgan, who is sophisticated, and testing even says so, she was in the superior range,
Mhm.
it's not impossible. And,
Mhm.
there are even case studies about, adolescents who malinger like medical symptoms. Like there's a case study on a kiddo who malingered stuttering that he
Mhm.
developed after he was assaulted by a peer in an institution. And he said,
Mhm.
"Oh, I just did that because I can't remember the reason." But they caught on, right? And
Mhm.
so it's interesting again that there are all these sort of red flags, or at least sunset orange flags, that I would be like, I want someone else to look at this, because what's going on here? Rather than, I'm not going to entertain the possibility that she's malingering because she was young and did it for 3 years. But why are you discounting the data, the very important data that she's not on antipsychotics and doing just fine? That
Right.
is so rare that it's
Right.
like, she should be her own case study if this is true. Like
Mhm.
I've never heard of that happening. And I have
Mhm.
seen decompensation. I have a patient going through it right now because he's throwing away his meds and
Mhm.
he's decompensating.
Wow.
Um, and so, there are diagnoses, like there's something called schizophreniform,
Mhm.
which is a psychotic disorder. It has all of the features of schizophrenia, but they only last 1 to under 6 months. And then if they go away, okay, it was schizophreniform, it was this phase, it was this, but they're saying Morgan had it for years and was diagnosed with schizophrenia, probably because she said she had this going on for at least 3 years while she was in that hospital before her first hearing. And so if they're truly saying that, and they're saying that the data all exist to say, no, she was not malingering, there's no way. Why did you take the diagnosis off of her record? That's
Mhm.
incredibly irresponsible to not treat and not focus on, even on your like face sheet that says schizophrenia, PTSD, anxiety, social anxiety, whatever else she has.
Yeah.
Um, it's like, if you truly believe that, why did you take it off? Because taking it off of there means it's not worthy of clinical attention.
Mhm.
If you really think these symptoms could
Right.
come back because she has a diagnosis of some psychotic disorder, why are you taking it off? That to me is like,
Right.
oh, like even the unspecified, like the one evaluator that I really like, who talks like a technical manual. I very much
Mhm.
enjoy that. She even
Mhm.
said, "Oh, I left unspecified on there by history so that people can note that this is on her documented history." Great. Do
Mhm.
that at least. Don't just take it off and act like it never happened. If you
Right.
believe she has this illness, it's just,
It, it's almost like she had a cold and then she got better and that cold is gone.
yeah.
Right. So riddle me this. It can schizophrenia ever go away, or like once you have it for life? Like
Yeah.
without meds, without
Apparently
meds.
it can go away if you're Morgan Geyser.
Well,
But
okay.
if you're everybody else, I've not ever heard of
Not,
that. Right now,
yeah.
maybe there are some anecdotes out there in some country or something that have miraculously recovered. They unlocked
Mhm.
some key that we don't know about yet. And maybe
Right.
Morgan's situation is very real and she fully remitted and is cured of schizophrenia. Maybe.
Mhm.
Doubtful, but maybe. But
Right.
the people I work with, right, the people adjudicated NGRI, and everybody that I have ever encountered and then read about in the literature and learned about in
Mhm.
textbooks, schizophrenia is a lifelong illness. Like Carlos Dominguez, he
Yep.
will have that for the rest of his life, and he needs medication management for the rest of his life.
Mhm.
Otherwise, these symptoms can, will, and do come back.
Mhm.
Now, they might take a week, they might take a month, they will come back. And it's a
Mhm.
little bit different in something like a bipolar disorder, where they will go off their medications and they'll be like, look, I'm fine. I told you. And then maybe a year later, they have an incredible manic episode, hurt someone, hurt themselves, run the wrong way in traffic, and end up in the hospital, right? Because they have that manic episode. So bipolar disorder is quite different. Now, there's also rapid cycling and all of this, and depressive episodes and things like that they might not really recognize. But schizophrenia, you're going to have those positive symptoms and probably at a minimum negative symptoms for the rest of your life. And that's not to say the voice or voices will talk to you every single day, all day, every single minute and never shut up.
Sure.
They can get quiet, right? Some of them do have it kind of constantly. But yeah, I have not heard of any cure or miracle, complete and total remission of a schizophrenia.
Right.
Never in my life.
I suppose we should always say anything is possible, right? Anything is possible.
In the
and
human brain, anything is possible. So
yeah.
maybe.
So we could be on the verge of this. This is a case study. This is the first time ever that a person has been cured of schizophrenia for whatever reason, whether it was the meds or her, going through puberty and her chemical makeup changed, and all of a sudden.
That's what's interesting is usually if you're diagnosed younger, you have a worse prognosis for schizophrenia than if you're diagnosed earlier. And I think one of the evaluators even said that when you're diagnosed, I think it was the white-haired doctor, he had even said, was it him? Well, anyway, I believe it was him. And he said that diagnosed so young is like malignant. And it's like this insidious. And if you're diagnosed younger, because schizophrenia is a degenerative disorder, just like in Alzheimer's, right? And so if it's onset younger, your brain has more time to deteriorate. So it's going to get bad versus an onset, typical onset is mid to late 20s. It can onset later. And then, of course, with substances, it can become a settled condition of an induced psychosis whenever. But yeah, so that's what's also really interesting about her is that she should have a terrible prognosis. But apparently she's just a miracle, which if that's the case, I will sit here with egg on my face and I will take it all day because that would be awesome.
Yeah. And then you want to do a case study on her and write a paper. And
then I'm going to get licensed in Minnesota.
Right. Well, this case it's confusing. It's fascinating. It's intriguing. It's like all these things to me. And one of the things I want to talk about is the doctors that we saw in the first hearing were, no, she should never, or not should never. No, she's not ready to be released yet. And then those same doctors came back in for the state saying, yes, she should be released. And it was specifically Dr. Brooke Lundbaum. It was her for sure. And Kenneth Robin, he was always on her side. But Brooke, she had kind of the long blonde hair. I don't know if you remember her. And the one that you like, I just had her name, Dr. Deborah Collins.
Yeah,
that was the one, the dark hair with glasses. Yeah, but specifically, it was Dr. Brooke Lundbaum, where she at the beginning in February, I have my notes where she's like, no, she shouldn't be released yet. And then the one we're watching now from January of 2025, she's like, yeah, she's fine. She's basically cured. Well, yeah, she's basically cured. She's ready to go out, or she's reached the capacity at Winnebago. She's been out into the community. She's been supervised in the community, but she's not supervised by walking around on the grounds, but she's gone as far as she can go. And that's confusing, but it's also interesting that these same doctors 4, 5, 6 years ago said, no, she's not ready. I guess that happens, that people over time are able to be released. Have you experienced that in your travels?
Yeah, so that's the goal, right? That's the goal of treatment. And I have patients that get released, which is wonderful. And it's like such an accomplishment. And I tell them all the time, because I think I think at Winnebago, she gets to wear her own like street clothes. But in other state hospitals, including where I am, they don't. They have to wear issued attire. And they all hate it. And so, when we talk about discharge and how they're going to be ready and this and that, I will always say, like, I don't want to see you back here in khaki again. And so the goal not only is to get you out, it's to keep you out. And like, I have
Right.
even said, like, listen, I enjoy working with you, but once you're out, I don't ever want to see you again. Because that means you came back. And that means
Right.
something bad happened. And so they're
Right.
like, right. I don't want to see you again either. Like,
Right. Don't take it the wrong way, but I hope I never see you, at
exactly.
least in this capacity. Maybe out on the street is another
No. Because then
situation.
they'll be like, and I'm like, oh, please. I don't want you to know where I live.
Right.
Yeah, luckily that's not happened. But
Yeah.
yeah, so the goal of a place like a state hospital for an NGRI is to rehabilitate. It's to get them stable, psychiatrically is number one, and then behaviorally as well, and to learn how to keep themselves that way so that they can go back to the community under supervision, right? That's the key. They don't just, and you're out.
Right.
Because unfortunately, a lot of them would be homeless if that were the case. And that's not great for anyone. And so the goal is to get them out at some point. And so, yeah, the fact that they, opined a couple years down the road, or several years actually down the road, that, okay, we think she's actually ready to step down. I would say that's great. And right. And it shows that they are at least maintaining some amount of objectivity to where they can change their opinion. But they seem to have kind of lost that ever since they first opined that she's ready. And then she got rejected a couple times. And it's like, they really want it to work now. And I get that. You want to feel like you've been successful. And, well, I don't want to say kind of, I see where they're coming from. And I agree with them saying, she's like done all we can do here.
Right.
Because yeah, she's not seriously mentally ill, in my opinion. And so what are they going to do at an inpatient psychiatric facility for someone who needs something else? And that, like out here, we, as of, probably about 4 years ago now, have opened places. Well, they have been open for a while, but they just started offering beds to psych patients from the state hospitals. And so these are places that are in between the hospital setting and the group home setting. So they are usually locked, but they can earn going out over time, over building trust, over staying on meds, going to your therapies, doing your chores and following rules and all sorts of that stuff. But it doesn't quite throw you into a group home setting where you're like, really, you're not on your own, right? Because you have a place to go, you have staff there, you have, people there in emergencies, you have people to help take you to your appointments and things like that. But you can kind of come and go as you please within a curfew, right? They have a curfew. But a group home is not supposed to be that monitored. It's supposed to provide you support and supervision and rules and structure and, getting help with getting on disability, getting to, getting your license again so you can drive, or, things like that.
Right.
But it's not supposed to keep you in and lock you in and, keep you under security 24/7 the way a state hospital is, like Winnebago, or even we call them a step down program. So it's one step down before total community release to a group home or like a boarding care kind of a thing. And it sounds like maybe Morgan needs that. Like she needs something else to keep her there. But like, I don't know. I don't really, like, I just can't grasp what is actually going on for her. I mean, I have some thoughts, but I've never met her. I need to read the evaluations. I need a lot more background. I need to do my own testing, or at a minimum see the raw data from what she had, because she's gotten a lot over the years, which is great. Yeah, but I have so many questions.
Sure. I can wrap my head around the doctor saying she's gone as far as she can. This is an adult facility, and she's basically Since she was 12 years old, she's been in this environment with adults. She hasn't been around her peers. So put her in another place where she can be around more of her peers. She can integrate back into society to the point of, being able to talk to people of her own age. And, I came to that, conclusion while watching, the hearings today. I'm like, okay, I can understand that. But then, then it was like, did this home fail in the sense of, they gave her too much latitude. They gave her too much freedom. Like Charlie was able to come and go, like almost at will, or she broke into, I don't know if they broke in or climbed through the window multiple times. I'm like, where's the security? So, and now I'm understanding there really is no security. It really is truly like this home where people, or a halfway house almost, where people just kind of come and go at will. And I don't think Morgan was ready for that personally.
Yeah, and they're not supposed to have people over. So
Yeah.
unless this person lived there with her, which it doesn't sound like that was the case,
Was not the
they're not
case. Yeah.
supposed to be there. And
Right.
even, if has a curfew and she probably has to tell them specifically where she was going each day. And usually you're only supposed to go to school, doctor appointments, therapy appointments. If you have a part-time job, go there. Otherwise, you have to tell them, hey, I'm going to go see this movie at this time. I will be back by this time. And then you have to show up. Or, there are group homes that I have experience in that if you are 5 minutes late, they call the police and report you as an AWOL.
Wow.
So, some are very strict that way. Granted, these were for juveniles, so there's that. But it's understandable. Right. We don't want juveniles being running around all over the place. But
sure.
Yeah, so there is structure, and they're not supposed to have guests because there are other patients there, right? And so it's part of their privacy is not allowing random friends to come over, or even having your family over. You're supposed to get permission. The conditional release supervisory team, so the community team, her carers, her clinical team there, at least this is how we do it out here, they have to actually vet any of your friends or family that you're going to go hang out with. And you cannot do that and have any contact whatsoever for the first 30 days while they are vetting you and seeing how you're going to do with such a transition and things like that. And I would wonder if maybe that's why Morgan had to sneak this person in, and why she ultimately ran away was because she was feeling too stifled even in that period of I don't want to have to get permission to go do what I want now. I'm free. I should be able to run with my buddy that I met at, I think it was at a church, and go do whatever we want. I'm an adult. I can maybe get the flavor of that from her a little bit, given, she would kind of present herself in a certain way whenever she had to do something she didn't really want to do or wasn't interested in. She wouldn't go to groups when she didn't want to do it anymore. Or when evaluators would kind of push on little things that she reported as well, yeah, that doesn't sound, or but earlier you said then she gets so distressed she has to leave. That's a little manipulative. And so I can see her actually not being okay with rules. But I also think that she needed sort of the middle period, right? That one step instead of leaping from the staircase into the group home. She needed more, but she definitely, I agree. I don't think she needs a state hospital, because if they're not treating serious mental illness, what is she doing there other than just hanging out and taking a bed space from someone who does need it and is probably on a wait list? So it's, it's tough. It's a tough call for them.
Right. So before we get to questions, what would you do with Morgan? Would you keep her at the state hospital? It sounds like you wouldn't put her in the home. You'd put her in that step in between. Is that where you would land?
Yeah. I mean, I think I would want, first and foremost, I would want a more objective evaluation of her. I would want fresh eyes on her. Not in terms of unit staff or whatever, because you can't get that, unless you have her transferred to a new facility. But I think having evaluators do a totally fresh record review, interview with Morgan, talk with mom, talk with brother, do do a full evaluation, probably get 2 people, and give their opinion then, right? And don't actually read the old evaluations. So there's like this school of thought in forensic evaluations, like, do you read other evaluations and opinions from other people before you do your own report, like to get kind of their collateral and their information that they got from the person, like, oh, so-and-so reported to this doctor, or do your whole own thing and then maybe read it after. I'm sort of in the camp of, like, if it's a 2 opinion thing, like a battle of the experts kind of a thing, I will read theirs after the fact, because I don't want their opinions to impact my thinking and my conceptualization whatsoever. And if that means more legwork for me for digging out the same records, interviewing the same people, fine, that's my job. And so I think she needs fresh evaluators. That's not to say her evaluators are bad or unprofessional or incapable. I know those facilities and I know how reputable they are. So I think these people do really good work. And there's nothing wrong with saying, like, someone else just needs to give me their thoughts on this. Like, there's nothing that actually makes you a very good clinician to be able to do that. And then, yeah, I think I did see that comment of, like, in Wisconsin, there's no sort of step down program. I think that's what she needs. And so I don't know what that means then, or I don't know what that would look like sorry, did I say Minnesota? I meant Wisconsin.
Wisconsin,
yeah. So I don't know what that would look like then, because, and I think even her attorney had said after she, like, AWOL'd, and I don't know if she had already gotten arrested by then or whatever, but I think her attorney had even said something about, oh, well, it's this autism and she just couldn't adjust and she wasn't ready for this and blah, blah, blah. Okay. If that's the case, what are you going to do now? She needs the middle. She doesn't need this and she's not ready for this. So where is this? Like, how do you help her? And it's now with her age too, it's even more complicated, because if she was still a juvenile, you could probably find some sort of juvenile facility that would foster more of those things. But she's past that. She's well into, becoming a developing adult. And, I know she's still young. She's only like 22 or 23, but I think she's pretty sophisticated and I think she can figure it out. Because she's adjusted very well after each court hearing, and each time she's been denied, she has made every adjustment that they have asked for. So I think she's capable. I think too, I would just want to really ask her why she did that. Like, well, yeah, I would want to know why she did that. But then also, like, what do you hope for your own future? And let's be realistic about it, which we know in the past when they've said, well, that plan's not realistic, then she got distressed and, left the interview and that sort of thing. And so, I would just have a lot of sort of like motivational interviewing type of questions for her, which is like, what's your actual goal? And do you think your behavior up until now has been working toward that goal? If it's to be transient and maybe end up on substances, okay, great, you're doing a wonderful job. Or if you want to end up in prison, you're doing great. Right. But if your job is to, be a productive member of society to whatever degree you are truly capable, you got to do it differently, because this ain't working. And so what does that look like? And really putting it on her. And that's what we do with, my patients. And they are schizophrenic. And even they can say, like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. That might not be realistic. I'm going to talk to my attorney and see what my better options might be. And they work with me and their social worker and all these people, and actually start to say, like, what can I do with this on my record, with needing to go to so many appointments, with needing meds, like how do I work around my needs and things and conditions, my, terms and conditions of the release program, while also getting to my goals. So it's more like, how do I fit my goals into my needs? And she was not doing that. It seems like she's just really going for whatever is kind of driving her. And it would be interesting to know exactly what that is. But yeah, so the short answer of that is I think she needs that middle, but it sounds like they don't have that.
They don't have it. Yeah, apparently.
That's really unfortunate.
Now, we'll find out tomorrow, because we're going to watch the rest of the hearing and then her escape and her capture and all that stuff. Northwest said that she's, it's getting dark over there, obviously.
Yeah, and I got these new lights, and
Oh,
I don't really know how to work them. So you guys are
just
gonna learn with me right
blast
now.
it out. Yes, blast it out.
Yeah.
Northwest said that sending her back to prison or sending her to jail or prison is not an option because she was found not guilty by reason of insanity. Ooh, that's nice. I like that.
Okay, we'll go with that.
That's cool. So what? And again, we'll find out. So I don't want to. I don't want to. Give any spoilers because I don't know what happened because this was just December 23rd that her new hearing was. So if that's not an option, now that she's been caught, it's not an option to send her to prison. Does she go back to Winnebago? Does she go does she sit in jail for another hearing? And again, we'll find out tomorrow when we watch the December 23rd one. But can you hazard a guess as to what happens to her now?
Yeah, well, I mean, this happened with one of my patients.
Oh,
He
okay, perfect.
he was out for, I think, a year or a
Mhm,
little, yeah, about a year.
mhm,
Violated terms and conditions because he stopped taking his meds. He
mhm,
decompensated, so he started to get manic. Um, he was acting up. He didn't hurt anyone, thank goodness. But ultimately, he did some things that were in a direct violation of the terms and conditions of his community release, and so they sent him back to me.
mhm. Okay.
And so that's what's going on now. So basically, he's starting over.
Wow.
We're
Okay.
all right. Here's your new book because the treatment that
Mhm,
we do on my unit is very specific, and so
mhm,
um, it's NGRI plus some very specific type of offending.
mhm,
And so, yeah, he just starts over because he didn't reoffend, right? So we didn't catch any new charges. And so these violations were violations of his community release that is under his NGRI commitment.
mhm,
So it's all really just encompassed by this commitment that he's under for his original index offense. And so this
mhm.
is just part of that is up, he just comes back. So yeah.
Okay. All right. So we'll find out because again, there was the December 23rd, which is just last week. So we'll get to that tomorrow. So, um, all right,
Yeah, I
let's
don't
get to
even
some
think I saw
questions.
that hearing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know I haven't, so I'm looking forward to it. All right, let's get to some questions. This was from yesterday. So we did part one yesterday. We did
Mhm.
part two today. Part three will be tomorrow. So I'll just kind of go down the list here. And I don't know who asked these questions. So if you asked them, people that are in chat, if this was you, if you want to say that was me, that's fine. If not, that's fine too. All right. So the first one was fatigue factor. What is fatigue factor?
So this one had to do, I think, with testing. So we call this test fatigue. And psychological assessment is exhausting. It's even exhausting for me as the person giving the tests because it requires a lot of brain power. And that's the point, right? Is to see how
Mhm.
your brain functions on whatever the task is. And as the examiner, you're like scoring it in real time and circling all these things and like, oh, does that meet this? Or do I need to discontinue that? Or can I keep going? And so for
Mhm.
both people, it gets really exhausting. And so that's what
Right.
test fatigue is, that you just get worn out. And so, there are measures that have more than 500 questions. And so, you
Wow.
might see when the scores come out, you might see something impacted by test fatigue, wherein they have a scale that measures the latter half of the test
Mhm.
because maybe you start kind of getting lazy in your responding. You just kind of start bubbling in whatever because you're like, I'm so tired. I've already done 400 of these questions. I just want to get it done. And
Right.
so then you have to say, okay, was this test fatigue? Because this was a very long test. They've already been sitting with me for 4 hours. Like, and so that's what fatigue factor is, or whatever the term was used.
Okay, that makes sense. Now we've talked about this in chat a lot. How did Morgan pass the malingering tests? We kind of touched upon that, over the last you know hour or so, half hour that we've been talking here. So, how do you think she was able to get off of her meds and pass this test, because I'm dying to take these tests to see if I can,
I
I
know
can
you are.
fake my way through it, but I mean, we did kind of touch upon it, but just to answer that question specifically, and nobody, well, you said you had somebody who was able to lie their way through it. They
Oh,
were
yeah.
able to, so it is possible, but how does a 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old do this?
So what's really interesting about Morgan is, and I'm thinking back specifically to I wish I could remember his name, the psychologist with the white hair, and the long
Yeah,
beard.
I'll find his name. Hold on. Yeah, keep
So
talking. I'll find it.
he gave her the PAIA, which is the Personality Assessment Inventory for Adolescents. I have that in
Mhm.
my cabinet right back here. Um, and he said her, so it comes with built-in measures of validity, and he said it was a valid and interpretable measure. There were no signs of or under-reporting, so it's valid. She didn't, fake bad or fake good is the other kind of term we use for that.
Mhm.
He then also said, if I'm remembering correctly, which hopefully I am, he said she did not show elevations on any of the scales that would be indicative of psychotic symptoms or anything related to mood.
Mhm.
So, again, no elevations, valid tests, so no malingering. So, she quote unquote passed the malingering part because she didn't lie.
Mhm.
She said, according to her answers, she's not having symptoms of anything. She's not having weird or bizarre thoughts. I mean, the questions are very nuanced, right? So the PAIA has a couple hundred questions.
Mhm.
And that's how you pass, is that you genuinely report what's going on. And for her,
Mhm.
she's saying, no, I don't have these things. Okay.
Mhm. So she truly believes it's like I don't mean to. Well, I'm going to say it anyway. Don't
Yeah.
take this the wrong way. I hope it doesn't come out the wrong way. It's like a lie detector test. If you actually truly believe it, you can pass a lie detector test. Is it kind of like that, or am I just completely off base with that?
Uh, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, polygraphs are pretty simple, and also they're not pass fail, which is,
Mhm.
I know that's the language people use, but that they're not
Yeah.
pass fail. So with a test like that, if you like, do you mean like if she truly believes she is ill, then it will show up, or if she truly believes she's not ill, then she will
Correct.
answer accordingly? Yeah,
Right.
maybe. So,
Because.
and what's interesting about that is then why is she taking back the malingering thing and saying, "Oh, no, 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 I just said that because I thought it would be easier to get out." Well, then why do your test measures also say you're not lying about not having any psychopathology?
Right. See, now Mallory says it's because she's not actually psychotic, to which I would say, well, and I think I have that later down. That was one of my questions for you. Is she psychotic because she's saying she's not psychotic? So it's like you get into this weird loop of like this weird feedback of like I'm not psychotic, but I am psychotic, but I'm not psychotic. You know what I'm saying? I
I
don't know if
think
I'm
so.
explaining that right.
So it
Like
kind
it's
of
part of her
reminds me,
psychosis is that she's not psychotic.
well, so with that, it would look more like she's still having very obvious delusions, still
Mhm.
talking at length about them. She's still convinced about them, but is saying with conviction, no, these are real. I swear these are real, and truly believes it, right? And delusions are so fascinating to me, even more so than hallucinations, because delusions are encoded in our brains like memories.
Mhm.
And so they remember these things as being real. And
Mhm.
like, how do you just get rid of your memory? You don't. You just have to be able to then challenge it and say, I know I believe that, the aliens came down and, took my spleen out and then they ran experiments on it and replaced it with a kitten. Like,
Mhm.
you can truly believe that that happened,
Mhm.
but you will still be reporting that. And
Mhm.
that's the thing about Morgan that I also thought was interesting is that there's no mention whatsoever about Slender Man anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
like, if I just saw Deviant's comment.
Even, yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Davey
quite a
kind of,
story. I was like, well, we'll save that for another show.
you wouldn't believe the things that I've heard, okay, from my patients. And
Oh, I'm sure.
that's not a specific example, but it's like, it's
Yeah.
close.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she's not talking about Slender Man. Her mother even said, "Oh, that never comes up." And when we
Mm-hmm.
meet with her and talk, well, why not?
Mm-hmm.
Because if she was so in such a deep belief that she thought Slender Man was going to come and hurt her family if they
Mm-hmm.
didn't hurt and end Peyton's life, why was she no longer worried about her family since Peyton is
Mm-hmm.
alive? And this is why I went back and was watching the interrogation videos. They do tell her Peyton survived.
Mm-hmm.
And so you would think she'd be like, oh my gosh, that means he's still going to come after my family. Somebody
Mm-hmm.
has to go find him. Somebody has to put my family in witness protection, or someone has to hide them in a shelter or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because the
Absolutely.
delusion would still be there.
Yeah.
And it's
If not
very hard
stronger.
right.
If not
And
stronger.
so
Yeah.
that's another thing that's interesting about this lack of medication too. It's really hard to medicate delusions because they're just strong, inaccurate, unrealistic, not based in reality, sometimes bizarre,
Mm-hmm.
deep beliefs. Hallucinations are an additional sensory experience, right? And so antipsychotics block dopamine receptors, hallucinations then, dissipate or at least lessen. Delusions don't function that way as far as we know. Yes, they can get helped, right? Because if you're, for example, not hearing the voice that's telling you aliens are coming to get you, or that the FBI has eyeballs in the ceiling and are watching you 24/7, no matter where you are, and they're taking notes and they're going to come and get you. If you don't have a voice telling you that, your delusion is probably going to lessen because it's not being reinforced, right? So it's kind of like a loop in that way.
Right. Right.
But delusions, again, are so hard to medicate. And I have plenty of patients. The delusion is kind of this outstanding thing where, okay, great, your hallucinations are reduced or gone. You haven't heard a voice in a year. Awesome, wonderful. And then you keep talking and you're like, oh boy, but you still have this deeply held belief that we have proven time and again through getting records from these various entities. We've even contacted like the FBI and the Department of Defense and all of these to get proof.
Wow.
And they still are like, nope, they're faking that. They're lying. And they say it with such deep conviction. You're like, wow, they really believe this. And yet Morgan is not even talking about it as far as we've been told. She's instead talking about the trauma with her father. She's, we never hear her talking of Slender Man or her fear for her family's safety ever again. So why is that? And that to me is another indicator she probably wasn't psychotic.
That's huge, because you would think it would be even more reinforced, more heightened, that she tried to kill or take out Peyton to appease Slender Man, and that failed. So now Slender Man's going to be coming after her family even harder because she failed him. And yet, you're right, we haven't heard anything.
And
about
her
that,
and Anissa aren't out there to protect them, or
Right.
And so it's like, why did we suddenly stop hearing anything about this? That's kind of a big thing for me. And I thought about that yesterday, I was like, huh, interesting.
Yeah. No, but that's brilliant. Yeah, that's brilliant. And again, I want to ask these questions to these experts. Like, well, why doesn't she talk about Slender Man anymore? What happened to Slender Man?
Yeah, I'm like, I swear to you, I'm sitting here like screaming. I'm just like, this is like a sporting event for me. I'm like, why are you doing this? And I can only type so much in chat so that I don't seem like a maniac.
That's
I'm
okay.
like, working and doing all these other things half the time. And so I'm like, and I don't have enough characters and all that. And it's just like, oh my gosh, and this is why attorneys should be consulting with other experts or other psychologists to read these reports so that they can say like, hey, what questions do you think we should ask about? And that's something that I can do. I haven't gotten an opportunity to do that yet, but a couple of my colleagues on my second job do that often, and they will be brought in by a defense attorney and be like, hey, can you look at these reports and just tell me kind of what you see? Or, you know, even like, what the heck is an MMPI? What does that mean? Is there anything like in the scoring that you think looks a little fishy that I should ask about? And so they need that here too. I think both sides could actually really benefit from that, but mainly the state, and just asking like, why it like, even just a simple question of like, okay, so what do you make of this lack of symptoms without meds for a prolonged period of time? Like, I would love to know just that answer. I would be so satisfied. Even if it's like, I don't know, I'd be like, great, perfect. I love admitting I don't know something.
Right. All right, next question. Do voices tell people to commit to self-delete? Do voices tell people, does it get to that point where, you know, the voices are like just hammering you, and you're such a, you know, we all have those voices, you know, of like, you're terrible, you know, this and that, you know, but does it get to the point where people actually self-delete based on those voices?
Yeah. So they're, it's not like it's something that's, well, one of my theories, at least, about why voices are so mean. I wonder if there's an underlying like self-esteem problem and self-deprecation and like, you know, self-debasing stuff that, you know, then when there's an onset of schizophrenia, their voices kind of take on that role instead of their sort of internal mind. But yeah, so there are, I mean, it doesn't happen with every single person with schizophrenia, right? But there are certainly people who have voices that tell them to take their own life. That's just, you know, that's just one of their, I think, I can't remember if I've had patients do that in terms of like their voices. Well, I think I've had one who used to say that, used to tell them to take their own life and just end it now. And it was more than like a, you know, kind of a teen angst, like everybody just hates you and, you know, that like kind of a depression version of it. It's like a mean voice in their head telling them to do that or to do it to someone else. Those are called command hallucinations, when they give you commands.
Right. All right. I think we talked about this, but I'll ask it anyway. Have you ever known a case of schizophrenia to have symptoms disappear and to totally come off meds with no reoccurrence of symptoms?
No, I don't.
Yeah, that would be a case study. We touched upon that.
That'd be amazing. I'd be out of the job then. So maybe we don't want to know about what cures these people.
Yeah. If only Morgan could go on to educate the entire world.
I know.
Is it unusual for a schizophrenic person who is suffering hallucination? Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. Aaron told me to do this and I totally forgot and I just remembered. I'm so bad. I just remembered.
What?
Sorry, Aaron, that I'm supposed to ask these questions and pull them up there.
Oh.
This way the chat can see what I'm asking instead of just me blindly reading them. Is it unusual for a schizophrenic person who is suffering hallucinations to recruit other people to participate in their hallucinations? Is it unusual for that? Or is it usual?
That's the part I was focusing on. That is unusual. So I've seen it mentioned in chat a couple times for this one. And when we were on that, what was that case we just watched? Was it Lanz?
Yeah, Matthew Lanz.
Who his brother actually had like schizophrenia or some psychotic disorder.
Yep. Yeah. Stabbed the guy in DC.
Oh yeah, the military thing or whatever. Yeah. Or the Pentagon or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Pentagon. Yep.
It is unusual to do like recruiting, and you know, people brought up in this thing with is it Anissa or Anissa?
I think it's Anissa. I think let's go with Anissa.
Okay, so with her and her and Morgan, you know, and then with the Lanz brothers, people talked about like folie à deux. Which is a shared psychosis, but there are actually like 4 types of that. It's so rare.
Yeah, like group psychosis, right?
Well, it's usually not more than 3. It's
Okay.
most often with one other person up to
Hmm.
two other people. But yeah,
Okay.
then group like mass delusion is even
Hmm.
more like rare, and it's usually
Hmm.
just like people who are all pissed about the same thing and need an explanation or need something to cling to. It's not really a
Right.
delusion. At least we
Hmm.
hope it doesn't get that far.
Hmm.
So in something like that, it's usually someone, and there's this really old case that actually I believe is the first time and how the term folie à deux developed was from these like sisters. I think I want to say they were in France. Or somewhere else in Europe. I don't know. But they were like the original case of folie à deux of this shared psychosis. They were like running in the street or like something bizarre. And there actually is like old footage of it. If you
Hmm.
can find that somewhere, it's really cool. And
I
I
get it
don't
now.
mean
It's
to like,
French, right? It's French,
yeah,
folie à deux. Okay, I got it
yeah.
now. Okay.
Oh, so that would make sense if it was in France.
Yes. Yeah,
Oh, the
folie à deux.
UK.
Yes.
Wait, Northwest said the UK. So okay, it was in Europe. I was close,
Well,
kind
but
of.
that's
It was
French.
like,
Folie à deux. That's French.
yeah.
No, that's French. Yeah.
So it's usually relatives, like siblings, especially, or someone in the same family, because that is the
Hmm.
level of closeness that it often requires.
Hmm.
And one person, usually the delusional person or the psychotic person, right? So hallucinations, is the dominant person in that relationship that then kind of sucks in the more vulnerable
Hmm.
submissive to that.
Hmm.
Now, in this case, it could be said that maybe that was Morgan and Anissa, right? I think Morgan
Hmm.
is definitely the dominant, even though she claims, at least early on, that it was the other way around. But
Hmm.
just the little information that I kind of have on Anissa, it seems to me that Morgan is actually the dominant one. And just like based on their planning and like how this was, at one point, I think I read in a court transcript that like Morgan had even said something to the effect of like their first plan was to do it in a bathroom stall, and
Hmm.
Anissa wouldn't do anything, and she was just kind of standing there staring at Peyton, and Morgan like pulls her away and was like, "What are you doing? Why aren't you doing it?" And
Hmm.
then she was like, "Hold on, give us a minute," and goes and talks to Anissa and tells Peyton to go like play on the slide or something. And so to me, Morgan is clearly the dominant one here. However, since I don't think the delusions were real, I don't think her psychosis was real. Again, based on very little background on Anissa, it seems to me it's more likely that what Anissa had going on was like early stages or symptoms or like an even really early prodromal phase, which we saw in Carlos,
Hmm.
of like a delusional disorder. I think she was more vulnerable to believing someone as dominant and as intellectual and strong as Morgan. And I think Morgan knew that. And I think she pulled her
Hmm.
along for the ride on this and took advantage of that. And I think what we'll see tomorrow is a lot of, and I won't go into specifics as much as possible because I don't want to spoil it, but we'll start to see the darker side of Morgan.
Hmm.
And it'll start to be like, oh wow, okay.
Hmm.
And so pulling someone into it, it's not impossible, it's rare. So
Hmm.
as far as it being unusual, yeah, it's unusual. People,
Hmm.
sure, with schizophrenia will try to convince you that the delusion is really, no, I swear, these aliens really did come down and get me. Or like, look, right there, you see that? That is the FBI. They are in there. And so, yeah,
Hmm.
like I've had patients try to convince me of things, but I'm like, no, like
Hmm.
there's no basis in reality for that. And then you also start kind of poking around and you're like, okay, but how could that even be possible? Right. So
Right.
again, it's unusual. It would be very unusual.
So I saw this movie, Peter Jackson, Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson, Heavenly Creatures. Did you ever see Heavenly Creatures?
No.
It's. I saw it in the movie theaters with my friend. It's from 1994, and it's about two young females. Kate Winslet is in it, and Melanie Linsky. Those are the two main ones. But the one female teenager convinces the other friend to murder her mom, and they smash her head in. It's really disturbing, but it's a really fascinating movie in the sense that I think I'm reading through it right now. They have a shared history of severe childhood disease and isolated hospitalizations. They develop an intense friendship. And the one convinces the other one that her mom is, abusing her or just is really authoritative to her. So anyway, yeah, they ultimately end up killing her, and it's fascinating movie. So I want to rewatch that again. So Peter Jackson, which I love to death, Heavenly Creatures is a movie definitely check out.
Okay. Yeah, and the kind of key things there were like it sounds like they both suffered sort of on their own separate lives some level of what sounds like severe trauma, and then they bonded over that, and the bond became very deep.
Yeah.
I don't know if Morgan and Anissa had a deep enough bond to
Right.
truly result in a folie à deux versus a manipulator and a manipulated, because
Right.
it does take a bond, like a deep bond. That's why it's often seen in families. Or I can see people with, traumatic histories, like trauma bonding is kind of the new buzzword for that. And finding someone that you're like, you've been through this, you get it, we're both hurting like this, and that kind of thing. And really, and you even said
Sure.
it, developed a very deep bond. So that I can see that.
Yeah, I came to realize, or I feel like I could probably bond with anybody given the right circumstance. And it has to do with trauma. It has to do with the
Okay.
shared experience of some kind of trauma, and it doesn't have to be like where you get hurt or anything. But it could be like when I was in New York City. I'm like, you get stuck. I think there's a Friends episode, right, or Seinfeld, where they get stuck. I think it's Chandler, so it's Friends, where he gets stuck in the ATM bank with that beautiful woman, and he doesn't know what to say to her. Even just something like that. I'm like, and seeing that, I'm like, oh yeah, you could literally be in. You could be in an accident with somebody. It could be the president of the United States, and you would have that shared experience. And then you would be able to talk to that person because, hey, you are the only two people in the world that had that shared experience. So that helped me overcome like being shy and meeting people, because I'm like, well, you're human, I'm human, and I'm not going to elevate you just because you have a certain status in society or you have a certain look about you, and I've always felt that if I had a shared experience with you, then you could be the most, the richest person in the world, the most beautiful person in the world, whatever it is, I would still feel comfortable talking to you because we share that experience,
Yeah. Yeah, and that's like we talk about juries all the time that have to see
Right.
like, the evidence.
The worst of the worst.
And
Yeah.
what was that one with Megan, what's her face with her
Boswell
baby and
with her,
when
child,
they pulled out the little onesie and someone in the jury like threw up because of the smell. Those jurors all now have each other, and I'm sure they would have bonded over like no one else. Like, yeah, we watched it, but we didn't have to sit there and smell it and see it and then like go back
pass
into a room
judgment.
and be like, oh my God. And like also the
Right.
difference is they're not allowed to talk about it until the end. We
Right.
sit there and like, talk to one another. Oh my God, this is so bad. And we offer each other comfort, and they aren't allowed to do that. And so, yeah, I'm sure just through that sort of version of trauma and exposure to that, they probably feel very bonded to each other by the end. And I think even in Chad Daybell, some of the jurors have come out and be like, yeah, like we exchanged numbers, we still talk, because sometimes it feels like you don't have anyone to talk to, and like yeah, so they get it. And that's where really deep bonding comes from, is from those substantial experiences.
Sure. Yeah, it would be like any kind of first responder, any kind of military. If you see action together, nobody knows what you went through. Only those people know that, So, all right, continuing on. What does not successful in the community mean? Someone had to get hurt or worse? Because they said that a lot, that not successful in the community. So
it just means she had to come, like, she was obviously picked up. We know she got arrested because she violated terms and conditions. So she was not successful. It just, it doesn't, I mean, I hate to say it's like, oh, you failed. But if you were successful, then it's kind of like what we talked about earlier with like the goal is to get out, and to stay out is even more the goal than just getting out and then like, you tried it and you weren't successful, so you come back. That's all. It doesn't have to mean someone got hurt or you hurt yourself or someone else or committed new crimes. It can just be, even something like, say she didn't, AWOL to another state. It could look like someone who goes and gets some beer at the store, and you're not allowed to use even legal substances when you're on terms and conditions. So, that means you're not successful in the community, or, at least not yet.
Or miss your curfew, right? You talked about curfews earlier.
Yeah. You miss your curfew, like repeatedly. Usually it takes like, if it's something like that, it's like you have to do it kind of repeatedly, and then meet with your team and they're like, what's going on? And, that sort of thing. But it just means you're not having, you're not doing it successfully under community release.
Gotcha. All right. What is the difference between schizophrenia and schizoaffective disorder?
Yeah. So we kind of talked about that earlier. So schizophrenia is the schizo part of schizoaffective disorder. So the affective is the mood disorder. So it's like a combo. It's like a BOGO.
Gotcha. All right. Schizo, not schizo. Schizo. Did I say it wrong?
I say schizoaffective. Some people say schizoaffective. It's kind of just
schizo. Tomato, tomato.
To be. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Let's see here. What else? All right. This one was mine, I believe. If not, I'm going to take credit for it. I'm pretty sure I was talking to somebody in chat and I thought about this. So I think this was my question, but I think it came from somebody else. So do you see our understanding of mental issues advancing over the next several years so that Morgan or anyone else can find treatment? So I was thinking more like technology, right? Like technology advances every time you wake up, there's something new on that's been presented. So do you see, the mind is so fixed, but do you see, I would think pharmaceuticals are advancing, our understanding is advancing. And then my next follow-up question is, what about these moments that you see advancements in your field and of understanding somebody like Morgan? So do you see that on the horizon, or are we kind of sort of stuck, if you will, or fixed at our general understanding of schizophrenia?
Well, I don't think we're stuck. I think the field of mental health, obviously we know just historically it moves kind of slow, although they update the DSM like it's nobody's business. So we got to keep buying new ones. But even that kind of took a while between like 3 and 4. But I think in terms of like, it definitely won't go as quickly as technology. But, if you think of like scientific laws, right? Like a law of gravity or, the law of thermodynamics, psychology doesn't have any laws. We have theories. And so the goal is to maybe someday we'll actually have a law of like, this has been proven to be the case time and time and time again. But for now, everything is just theories and they're always evolving. And I think actually what's interesting from my perspective, and I think about this every single day and I get very frustrated with it every single day, is as technology advances, mental health is also changing, and not for the good, in my opinion. So we're seeing, we've always kind of had an issue with overdiagnosis of ADHD, for example, because, a teacher is overwhelmed with 30 kids in their class and, like being with like 30, like 5th graders sounds terrible for 8 hours, or like 6 hours. And then imagine like, in college, your lectures are like 1 hour. I've had 3-hour lectures, but you can get up and leave and go to the bathroom or go get a snack or like or you can eat during lecture. And most of them nowadays, you can just be on your computer and surfing the web while you're in class. kids can't do that. They have to sit in their seat until it's time to go to the restroom or it's time to go on recess, and then they have to come back for hours. And so teachers have just been like, oh, as soon as this kid is starting to move his legs too much or is getting really restless, oh, get him checked out for ADHD. It's like, well, maybe he just literally can't sit there for 6 hours, because I couldn't.
Oh, yeah. I would be diagnosed with that in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Or if a kid is acting out, oh, it must be ADHD. Well, maybe the kid is actually being neglected at home and didn't get breakfast. Did you think about that? And so, now it's getting a little better in that regard, with a lot of things being very trauma focused. And, but the issue is technology is shortening our attention span. And so now my sort of thinking, as I have to evaluate people around that, is I think ADHD is actually starting to look different than sort of our classic definition because of technology. And like, I saw this little like video on Facebook the other day, because yes, I know I only have Facebook and I'm a dork for it, but whatever. I've never had any other social media and I don't intend to start. And like it was like of someone like putting crackers in a little organizer. So I don't know, it was so silly. But they cut each thing. It wasn't someone just, oh, here's one packet and then I'm going to grab the next one and put all these in. It was cut. That is shortening our attention span each time, because it's like, we can't even wait the short period of the time it takes to naturally grab the next packet of crackers to put in this organizer, which I can appreciate some good organization. But so I think like ADHD looks a lot different. It's also being self-diagnosed like crazy. And now there was even a trend on TikTok, I guess, about self-diagnosing autism. And now, I know. And now everything is being called PTSD just because you're uncomfortable with growing pains, rather than, prior generations when it was like, okay, like maybe that sucks, but like, it's not trauma to have someone break up with you, or to have someone yell at you, or to disagree with you, or to have to listen to something that makes you uncomfortable. That's not trauma, and we need to stop calling it that. And so technology and all of these little like trends is actually making mental health regress. And it's really like upsetting to me. It's very frustrating, because then people with real issues are getting overlooked, because now everyone is saying, I need all of these things. I need meds. I need this. No, you don't. You need to get some skills and resilience, and just learn that like we all go through hard stuff as we grow up. That's part of life. Like we're not made to be comfortable in every single situation. And so it was like we were advancing and doing so good, and then the explosion of social media happened, and now it's like everyone has a mental illness, and everyone has autism, and everyone has ADHD, and my anxiety and my OCD, just because I like things, an organized bookshelf. That's not OCD. So I hope that we can start to get a grip and start advancing and like actually doing really great things in mental health, and even for schizophrenia, and understanding violence. And, that's my wheelhouse. And like, just really, I don't know, but someone's got to like put their foot down and say like, we have to, as a society, stop saying that everything is a mental illness, when it's a growing pain, and it's a hard time, and it's an experience that sucked, and and letting people who experience real trauma be validated in that, not just oh yeah, well, me too, I've had trauma too, like I like tripped and fell off the sidewalk, and it was so embarrassing. I thought I was gonna just die because this person saw me, and oh, it's so traumatic. No, it isn't.
Right. and then to cope with it, then it's the coping mechanism. Like coping mechanisms are just out the window, it seems like, and exactly what you were just saying. Now
it's crying on camera for likes and views. And I think I heard of this thing called trauma dumping. And and like, this is
Sarah Grace Patrick. The Sarah Grace Patrick trial that's coming up next week. Yeah, we're gonna. Well, we kind of already talked about that. I think a week or two ago when we did our little deep dive.
She was
there,
like
so.
calling true crime podcasters or
Yep.
whatever to like, hey, want my story? What?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And it's like now as well with things like BetterHelp and all of these things where you have a counselor or therapist literally in your pocket 24 hours a day. That's not going to help you cope. The beauty and sort of magic behind therapy is that you would go like once a week, and then in between, you use the skills you're learning about with your therapist, trying them on by yourself and saying, oh God, that really didn't work. I still had a lot of anxiety around that. I tried to ride in the elevator and I just started panicking and had to get off at the next floor, for a little exposure therapy, or like depression. Like I tried journaling and it just became too whatever. And then you work on it again with your therapist, but you have that interim time to try for yourself rather than like, oh, let me just get out another therapist and go on this app and talk about it because I can't. It's like, no, try for yourself and start reinforcing your own resilience, and then you'll be good.
Right. Jenny G, thank you so much for your $20.
My goodness, Jenny.
That's so sweet. Great episode, great information. Thank you for answering some great questions, Psychosaurus Rex. You're so amazingly intelligent, and I'm proud to call you a friend.
Oh, don't stroke my ego.
Yeah, I'm sure you can hear Rafa in the background there.
I was gonna say, is that my cat? I don't think so.
No, he plays this game where Aaron will let him in, I'll let him out, and he does like this circle, and then she'll let him in, then he comes over here and meows, so I let him out, and he just kind of does this loop. He gets into this weird feedback thing.
Aww.
He's cute.
Such a cat.
All right.
I love it.
He is. All right. So I wanted to pull this. This was a question from today because somebody asked about Peyton. So how much in all these hearings that we're watching, and then your experience, we haven't heard from Peyton. We haven't heard from her parents. We haven't heard from anybody. We haven't heard from the victim. So how much say does the victim have / get? Like where's her voice in all of this?
Well, I mean, that's what's different about like an NGRI versus like a standard, conviction and sentencing with the victim impact statements. Those are, I don't want to say they're irrelevant, but they don't have anything to do with Morgan's mental health and her treatment and her success in that treatment and then her community release. And it just doesn't, right? And I know I've said too, a number of times in like other trials, the trial is about the defendant. It's the victim is not, this is about supporting the rights that we have in this country for a fair trial for the defendant. And so, that's not to say like, oh, let's just dismiss the victim, but ultimately it's about the defendant. And in this case, it's about Morgan, and it's about her mental health or mental illness or lack thereof. It's about her treatment and success. And really, when it comes to that sort of thing, like, thank God Peyton survived. I mean, talk about a strong person. Like, my goodness.
Yeah.
And I read earlier that, this was what, in like, was it in like May or something when it happened?
Yeah.
May of 2014, I think.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, her both of Peyton and Morgan's birthdays are in May, and I think it was definitely in May. I'm just stumbling on.
Yeah. So, and she was back in school in September of that same year. Like, what an incredible human being. Yeah. And so I think for something like this, and even, for obviously people who don't survive, it's obviously different, but I think for Peyton and victims who do, by the grace of God, survive things like this, they have their own stuff to focus on for themselves. And, that doesn't mean dismiss their experience and that this happened to them by any stretch, but it's like, they've got to focus on them. We need to support them in their therapy and getting them help and support and, separating them as a person from what happened to them and the defendant that did this, and let them get, tried, convicted, put in, a hospital, whatever, the prison, whatever the case, and then let the victim do what they need for their life as well. And so I think, it's not that we're dismissing victims. It's not that we're saying they don't matter. It's just trials in the legal system are about bringing to justice the people that did the wrong. And then the victims can go and, it sounds like Peyton is doing incredibly well. I mean, gosh, she was strong to begin with, and now she's even better. She's going to become a doctor if she's not already. She probably, I think you said probably in med school, given her age. So she's done tremendous, and she's probably worked really hard at it for a long time. And so, I don't know if she would even want a voice in this. Like, does she forever want to just be like, oh my God, I have to go back and deal with this again? Why can't I move on in life? Like, I would be someone who'd be like, can I just move on, please?
Right. No, that's a good perspective. I didn't even think about that.
Can I just be Peyton? And
Right. I don't want to be identified as this anymore. I've moved on. Yeah. All right. Let's get to some questions from today. Northwest, are evaluators still viewing Morgan as a 12-year-old girl?
That's a good question. Her age is something, and Northwest, I think you and I have been kind of talking about this in chat. I have kind of gotten this sense of like, I don't know, maybe they are so seemingly, right? Because I don't know. I've obviously never talked to any of them. But from like what we get, they're so seemingly resistant to the possibility that she malingered and just like did something terrible because she did it so young, and she's a girl, and like young 12-year-old girls don't do that. Well, sometimes they do. And we need to be okay with like saying that. And so I do wonder, if it's like sort of like more present day. I mean, she is still young, right? She's not 12, but she's like 22. I mean, think of how you were at 22. I think of how I was at 22. I mean, I'm like kind of a nerd, so so I was pretty tame at 22. But like still my thoughts were still developing. I was coming into my own. Like, yes, I would still thinking back now, like I was very young. And what I wouldn't give to be 22 again. But
yeah, right.
But I have wondered kind of throughout each of these hearings, and we've gotten like a great timeline in terms of when her sentencing hearing was, and she was she was like 15. Then we got to see, her progress. What was it like? When was her first hearing? Was it 10 years later? No, it was probably like 8 years later.
2018, February 1st, 2018.
Oh, so like 4 years later. Yeah. Well, and then when was the one? Then it was 2024 and then 2025. So we've had like a really good trajectory of her, which we don't often get. And I think this is actually pretty awesome in that way. And so like we've seen her develop, physically. We've heard how she's developed mentally, but they keep kind of talking about her almost like infantilizing her in a way, as if like Northwest asked, like, are they kind of still seeing her as this 12-year-old? I think they maybe are seeing her as like developmentally younger than she is chronologically. And I don't know why that might be. Again, maybe because this all started when she was, I mean, I was looking at our thumbnail earlier, and my gosh, she looks like a baby in her original mugshot. Like she looked so young and so small. So, it's probably kind of hard to unsee that, especially all of these people who have who've stuck around for, 10, 11 years, all the same people, which is so surprising to me. There's not a single new person. And so it's like, they want this little 12-year-old to do well. And yeah, we all do. We would all like love for everyone to be successful and safe and overcome adversity and this and that and the other. But like, we also maybe need to face a little bit more reality and entertaining possibilities beyond kind of what we hope for, even if they fly in the face of our original opinions.
Right. All right. Kathy Davis says, do you think she was misdiagnosed with schizophrenia? Could it be heavy bipolar?
I don't think it was bipolar, because that would have had to have been like a manic episode, and those don't
Mhm.
just last in one isolated time. Like
Mhm.
mania can last several weeks. I have seen
Mhm.
someone personally who, like, their meds got decreased and she became manic and psychotic. And this lasted 2 straight months. And it
Mhm.
was
Wow.
It was exhausting. It was exhausting for
Wow.
me. I can't even imagine how she didn't feel exhausted because she had all the energy in the world. Um,
Right. Wow.
but so if this was like a manic episode, because one manic episode is required for a diagnosis of bipolar 1 disorder, that's
Mhm.
a very short manic episode.
Mhm.
Unless they like injected her with medication almost immediately. But even then,
Mhm.
it takes a while, right? It can take
Mhm.
people, I mean, you inject them with like an Ativan, which sedates them and they go to sleep for a little while, but they'll wake up and probably still be manic or if not hypomanic. And then, yeah, I mean, I think she was misdiagnosed.
Mhm.
Because as we've been saying, it doesn't make sense to me how she has not a trace of a symptom at all with no medications for this long. It's
Right.
just it's unheard of. Not
Yeah.
impossible. I will keep saying that, but
Yep.
it's
Anything is possible. We'll leave that door open, but
yeah.
with a big, with a big but. Green-eyed cat. I know we've talked about this, but I'm going to pull it up. Can schizophrenia really be outgrown? I didn't think it could, or were the doctors wrong from the beginning? So we've talked about that. But do you want to put the
So
final?
it doesn't get outgrown, it usually gets worse.
Yeah.
At least cognitively, because again, it's degenerative. And so you usually see the cognitive aspects, so attention, memory, executive function, the
Mhm.
processing speed, things like that. You will see them deteriorate the same way you would someone with dementia eventually into Alzheimer's. So you
Yeah.
would at least get worse in that regard. And then,
Mhm.
especially if you don't have medications, obviously your hallucinations and all that stuff is just going to get so intense.
Right. Jenny G, why do you think the professionals who have worked with her won't admit that she could have been malingering? Do you think it's all just ego? That's really hard for me to get over.
It's hard for me to get over too.
Mhm.
It could be, right? Like yeah, I would be the first one to acknowledge that, like, I love when I get something right. I
Mhm.
love when I can figure out a diagnosis and then everyone's like, "Ah, that makes so much sense. Yes." And I'm like, "Thanks. I know." But and I love when like my treatment is really successful and a patient turns a massive corner that,
Mhm.
they were stuck in for years and all, like, we love that.
Mhm.
We're helpers. That's the foundation upon which we build our house as psychologists. Even in forensic evaluations, we're trying to help. We're trying to
Mhm.
help by informing the court and keeping the
Mhm.
community safe and those sorts of and the patient. Um,
Mhm.
in terms of them, there was one, was it the defense male that goes between Wisconsin and California? It might have been him.
Yeah,
Um,
Robbins, Dr.
and I
Robbins.
Okay,
Yeah.
Robbins, Collins, gosh, they all sound the same.
Yeah. Kenneth Robin. It's either Robin or Robbins, but Dr. Kenneth
Okay.
Rob. Yeah. Yep.
So I think it was him, and I mentioned this in chat about, like, again, why is someone who did this evaluation now doing the release evaluations? He did
Mhm.
her NGRI, he did her competency, he did her NGRI, and now he's doing readiness for release.
Mhm.
Why is that happening? Because imagine he says she meets statute for NGRI, she has a mental disease or defect, it's probably a psychotic disorder, he says, and therefore, she didn't know right from wrong, blah, 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 blah. So she meets the statute, she's NGRI. That's my opinion. And then he has to go back and do readiness for release. Well, he's probably not going to want to say he was wrong.
Mhm.
Because what would that mean for him then? Right. And so we try our best to be objective. At least that's, maybe that's just me being too optimistic for my field. so it's like he kind of, even if it's subconsciously, kind of has some stock in this. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why, again, I just can't get over that they keep using the same evaluators
Mm-hmm.
for every single variation of assessment for her, when it's like, okay, well, if you say as her current evaluator that no, she doesn't have a mental illness, why did you say it for your NGRI? So were you wrong? And she never should have been here?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't feel good, right? Like none of us would want to, like, oh God, I just put someone in the hospital, should have been in prison. Like that would feel terrible.
Right.
But it does feel worse to say they should go to prison when they should have been in a mental hospital. So there's that. But
Mm-hmm.
it might be a little bit of an ego. We do have a little bit of an ego. And I can even say that I might, right? I like to do good work. I like to be right. I like when I am right. I like to, like kind of have that be put in the record and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I also really care about professional and personal integrity. So if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
I can be like, fine, that's great. You know what? I didn't even see that. You're right. I
Mm-hmm.
really overlooked that. Or I worked with this patient for too many years and I just couldn't see it. And what I've been doing lately, there was another question about like who evaluates the evaluators. I
Mm-hmm.
think I saw on our list.
Yep.
So, like, what I have been doing since I've been on my current unit for about 5 years, and I know all the patients quite well. I see them all day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've had a lot of treatment with them, and I just see them a lot, and I know them very well, and I know their records really well. What I've been doing with patients that I'm like, feeling kind of stuck on, or feeling like, gosh, this diagnosis just doesn't, something isn't right. Like, because all of our treatments are not quite working. So, what is happening? So, I have put them all, I think there's been like 6 or 7 of them that I've put on the list to get assessed by someone else,
Mm-hmm.
because I want fresh eyes on them. I think it's time for me to get that, because then it's like, well, if I don't get that, that means the patient is stuck here for longer because we're just doing the same old, because I think that I know everything about them. So I'm going to keep dishing out the same treatment that's not progressing them at all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I think like those checks and balances, and that's why a lot of psychologists are in like consultation groups. Like we meet psychologists through interests on like Facebook groups or Instagram stuff of like, oh, psychology consults. And I have consultation with my second job. I do quarterly consultation on a specific assessment, the HCR20 that they all mentioned, and I love it. I love it so much. I started a consultation group on it just so we could chat about it. And I did that because I felt like I always wanted to have a tune up and make sure I was interpreting the instructions correctly. And then we can all like, talk about examples and stuff like that from our patients, because we all work in the same place. So like HIP is a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
And so like having those consultation groups is so, so, so important. And being able to say, I think I just need someone else's opinion on this. And that's, again, I know I've said it a million times now. I think they need to do that. I don't see how
Yeah.
it would be harmful, which
Mm-hmm.
is right. We don't want to, do no harm is like the first, I think it's A and B of our ethics code.
Right.
It would do no harm to Morgan to have fresh eyes. And I know they've gotten her psychological assessments with
Mm-hmm.
like, fresh eyes at the hospital. But like, why not on her evaluators? Bring in
Right.
some fresh evaluators to really see what they say about all this.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe now that she did escape and she's back in
Yeah.
custody, maybe now will be that time. We'll see that now.
Yeah.
Only time will tell. Red Snap, could it be that she is just plain evil? So, where do you land with somebody being evil versus somebody having a psychosis versus somebody breaking the law, et
Yeah.
cetera, et
I
cetera?
mean, I don't like to think of people as evil.
Mm-hmm.
Because that to me, I don't know how to word it, but it just like suggests something about them as being like subhuman.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't think people are that way. Even those that do, I mean, like Brian Koberger,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say he's evil. I think he has issues, right?
He
And
does
so
evil things. So the person is
exactly.
not evil, but the acts are.
Right. And so it's like the behaviors that come from, I mean, I think Brian Koberger, again, has issues, and I'll leave it at that. And so
Mm-hmm.
like you said, evil behavior is coming from those issues. And
Mm-hmm.
so I don't think Morgan is evil. I think she's too bright for her own good, quite honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I think she should use that intelligence and whatever skills she had, like we'll find out tomorrow, kind of some of her imagination.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and I tell patients this too, like, man, if you only use that for good,
Mm-hmm.
imagine how far you would get.
Right. Right.
And so I don't think people are evil. And I don't,
Mm-hmm.
that's why, like, in chat, when people say that, not gonna lie, chat, I will zap it.
Yeah, I was going to say that's why we delete those
Yeah.
comments, for that
'Cause
very
it
reason.
really is,
Yeah.
like, subhuman, and it's almost
Yeah.
like, we don't wanna consider people like that, and we don't even wanna call them terms like that, because
Mm-hmm.
then once we start thinking of people as subhuman, we think the treatment of them should also be subhuman. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's like no, we just need to yes, even him, Barry. I have thoughts on, was it Dima? I think is
Dima,
how it's
yeah.
pronounced. I
Yep.
got thoughts on him that I think Chad would probably not agree with, but um, um, yeah. So I don't think she's evil. No, I think there are issues, but I don't think she's
Yep.
evil.
Ohio Pom Mom. I am a retired SW. Not quite sure what
Social
that
worker.
is. Social work. Okay, thank you. I routinely review prior records. I would hope they compare evaluations to highlight the ever-changing diagnoses.
Yeah, and that's why
Yeah.
I think they're at the point where they need some fresh eyes, because it's like every hearing we've watched, the diagnosis has changed.
Hmm.
And so it's like, okay, either they need to be like, okay, I need to totally reset.
Right. Something's
Which
got
I
to trigger
felt
them. Something's got to be like, well, wait a minute.
right.
Why is this happening? Yeah.
And that's
So,
what I'm wondering, like, are they,
yeah.
I would imagine they're having those thoughts and talking to each other, and like, why? I would hope, right? I hope
Mhm.
that's what's going on. I have done
Yeah.
that, as I said. And so there's nothing wrong with that and being confused, because she presents in
Right.
a way that's so inconsistent. And
Right.
so she doesn't make it easy. And so, yeah, like these ever changing, drastically changing from schizophrenia to autism, which, okay, like some of like the negative symptoms and some of the social stuff, like maybe, but
Mhm.
again, no meds, no symptoms. Now suddenly she's got autism, which
Mhm.
there was no mention of that from her mother. There's no mention of that ever being documented in her childhood, which I think is a requirement of the diagnosis. I'm not an autism expert. I
Mhm.
avoid that at all costs. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, I think they need someone to say, hold on, we can't
Mhm.
keep changing these. We
Right.
have to get someone to just look at this.
Right. Well, maybe now that she's escaped and she's back in
Maybe.
custody, maybe now they'll be like, maybe we should rethink this. Widespread
Mhm.
panic. Do you think she's manipulating her evaluators?
Somewhat, yeah.
Mhm.
It seems that way. Because again, it's like the timing, and this has been, Chad has pointed this out, and they're so observant. I love it. Like the timing of when her diagnoses change, when it benefits her. And
Mhm.
she even said, like, originally, oh, I malingered because I thought getting rid of a diagnosis would get me out of here quicker. Okay, but then it didn't. And so now she's got to backpedal. And now she's saying, "Oh, no, no, no. I didn't actually malinger. I just said that because I didn't know what was really going on. And really, it's just this trauma that I've never brought up before, even in the safety and security of a locked facility where my dad can't get to me and I don't talk to my estranged family." And
Mhm.
so, and now suddenly autism, it it's so strange that I do think there's a level of manipulation happening. And I don't know why they're not catching on to it, because they know her so well that it's like, how do you
Yeah.
not? But maybe that's why they're not catching it, because they know her too well.
Right. I think a lot is going to be revealed now that she's escaped and got caught. I think things are going to shift.
Yeah,
That's
I want to know
kind of where
what's
I'm
been
at.
going on in that group home. Kind of
Mhm.
like we're going to find out some more about her tomorrow in the hospital, even of what
Mhm.
has been going on with her. And
Right.
so I would wonder, like, what all is it? Similar stuff happening in the hospital? Like, did she take anything with her when she ran? Did she take like a backpack or something?
She definitely had, yeah, she had a backpack. I'm not sure what was
Okay,
in
like
it.
what?
We'll see
Yeah,
the body
that's what I
cam.
want to know. I want to know what's in
Yeah,
there.
yeah. We have the body cam, so we'll watch the body cam, and yeah, there's some
Yeah,
things, nothing jumping out at me, but she had a backpack. Charlie had stuff. Yeah, they had stuff,
yeah.
but just
Okay.
stuff, you
Yeah,
know.
and I want to know a lot of what was, because she was in there for like 2 months, I think, before she
Uh,
ran.
July until November.
Oh,
So yeah,
oh,
yeah.
okay.
I think she was
So
released in July. Yeah, yeah.
okay. Oh, so she had a fair amount of time
So
in
four
there.
months ish. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
somewhere in there. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanna know. I wanna see records. I want wanna see whatever little notes they took, whatever they confiscated from her, what was in her room, what was under her
Mhm.
bed. I wanna see all of it.
Right.
Iowa, I just wanna point out really quick,
Oh,
Iowa said, "Or she knows her evaluators so well." That's a
oh
good
yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah,
That's a
yeah.
good point.
So that goes back to the manipulation.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
Northwest. I'm not sure what CNA is. Being a CNA really realistic?
I think it's a
Her,
certified nurse's
nurse. Yeah.
assistant, something like that.
Her working in healthcare is a scary thought. Did she say that she wanted to work? I know she wanted to be a janitor. She wanted to be a visual artist, and she wanted to
Yeah.
write. Did she want to
So her
work in?
first plan was she wanted to be a CNA, and then
Okay.
Dr. Something Bomb told her,
Oh
"Is
yeah.
that really realistic?" And she got all mad. And then she said her backup plan was to be a janitor because that's what her dad did, and she went with her
Mhm,
dad sometimes for work. And then it was writing, and now it's something else or whatever. Um,
mhm,
I don't think it's realistic because it will show up on her rap sheet, at least as far as it does out here. An NGRI shows up on your rap sheet.
mhm.
And so I cannot imagine anyone employing her as that if she was
Right.
once criminally insane. How how can they know that she's ever stable enough to provide healthcare services to another human being? So I
Right.
don't think that's realistic. I don't.
Right. Another question from Green Eyed Cat. Would there be side effects or anything from taking the antipsychotics when she wasn't actually schizophrenic? We've seen this a lot in chat. Like if you're not psychotic, but you're taking those said medicines, how does that affect you?
Yeah, and that was one of the questions from the list too.
Mm,
So it would affect a person. Essentially, they'd have the same side effects as a person with schizophrenia who's on antipsychotics. So very slowed down thinking, very
mhm,
sedating, like slower processing speed of cognitions. Um, this may even look like avolition, which is just a fancy word for a decrease or a loss of motivation. So really, when we think of like negative symptoms of schizophrenia, that's what it would look like
mhm,
as a result. And so it can even mimic negative symptoms in that way, making this person look like, oh, um, they're being medicated with antipsychotics. They're not having positive symptoms anymore, but oh, look at all these negative residual symptoms they're having. Right. And so
mhm,
maybe that's why they thought that she had schizophrenia, because they were giving her meds that were making it look like she had negative symptoms of schizophrenia without positive symptoms, as if they were being treated.
mhm,
Now, it's also interesting in the long term, if someone who doesn't need an antipsychotic is on a dopamine receptor blocker, right? So it's like
mhm,
going back to science class here. You have your
mhm,
little neurons and your, your little things, and one of
mhm,
them shoots out the neurotransmitters into that little gap, right? I think it's called the synaptic cleft. And
mhm,
then the receptors are on the next nerve or the next neuron. And so if the receptors are blocked, you just have dopamine floating around. That's not great.
mhm,
And so then imagine on the long term, this person who does not need this extra dopamine floating around in there,
mhm.
that's not going to do well for them. So it's actually a good thing that they took her off something she doesn't need. And
Right.
it's interesting looking again at the thumbnail, that middle picture is when she was on these antipsychotics, and look how
Mhm.
different her
Mhm.
affect is between when
Right.
she's on them and when she's not. She looks flat. She looks
Mhm.
like she has nothing going on here, even in her eyes. And
Let's
then in
see.
the other one, you can see there's like
Yeah.
more life there, even though her
Right.
facial expression is, pretty blah. But like, just I can tell the difference. I don't know if you guys can, but I can see like a notable difference between when she's having these negative symptoms that are
Right.
actually side effects of an antipsychotic, and when
Mhm.
she's just on her antidepressants and anxiolytics. Which,
Right.
to answer that other question, an anxiolytic or a medication
Oh,
for anxiety, it is a psychotropic medication. It's just a version of it.
gotcha. Okay, this kind of goes with, well, this definitely goes with it. Widespread panic. I just want to pull it up, but that's exactly what we're talking about. What happens when someone is not mentally ill, takes a psychotic drug that MG was taking? Could it affect their emotions or behavior?
Well, the good thing about it is, in terms of behavior, is sometimes, like in jails,
Mhm.
they will give antipsychotics. So they'll diagnose them with a very umbrella, usually schizoaffective, because it covers both, right? Like psychotic and mood.
Mhm.
Um, because an antipsychotic will actually and can be used to treat like overtly aggressive, erratic behavior. So it can calm a person down, because that's what it does. It just sedates everything. It slows your thinking. It slows your body. It just slows everything down.
Mhm.
So it can actually be beneficial in that way. But emotion, it really like blunts them out.
Mhm.
It not only slows down your cognition, so your stuff going on thought wise and intellectually and all that sort of thing, but it does the same thing to your emotions. It just like kind of makes them all like dampened.
Yeah, we definitely see that with Carlos
Yeah.
Dominguez, where he's
Oh,
just,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that case makes me so sad. Like seeing
Yeah.
the video of him from school where he's like
Mhm.
so happy, and then
Yeah.
it just breaks my
Yeah.
little heart.
Yeah. Jenny G, what is the longest you've seen a person with a diagnosis of schizophrenia have no issues while off meds? Also, do you think they have scans of her brain? Wow, throughout the last decade or so. That's great. Do they do CAT scans and do they?
You can, if they're ordered, and
Yeah,
if someone thinks they're necessary.
yeah.
Um, like if they think she's got a neurological or like a neuro condition,
Hmm.
yeah, get it. That's what like our neuropsych department, when I make referrals to them, they have us do a couple of neuro screeners with the referral, send that over, and then they always say, do you have any MRIs or CT scans or anything like that? I'm like,
Hmm.
no. Like, oh, well, maybe you should order it. I'm like, oh, that's going to take a year because it's not an emergency.
Oh
Um,
wow.
but yeah, so I've had patients get that. I think that would
Mhm.
be great, right? So the longest I have seen someone without meds that has a psychotic disorder, I don't know if I've ever had any of my patients go fully off a med.
Mhm.
Um,
You were talking about a holiday the other day, right? Medication
yeah,
holiday or
medication
something? Yeah,
holiday.
yeah.
So I have had patients go through that, but I was
Hmm.
not treating them at the time, so they were on a different unit.
Hmm.
Um, and I think I wasn't even at this particular hospital yet. I was at a different one. And it was like within a week, they were showing signs of like talking to themselves a little bit more. They were acting a little weird. And then even what has happened, so the one that came back who went off his meds, that's why, so I got, when he got to me, he's already now back on meds, but he still
Hmm.
is not returned to a stable baseline. And it's been
Hmm.
2 months, and he's
Hmm.
still like manic. He's more like hypomanic now, which is good. But
Hmm.
it's an improvement.
Hmm.
Um, but psychotic. So there was another person who he's on my caseload now, but this didn't happen when he was on my unit. I don't, or at least not when I was there. Um, he just switched meds. And in that interim of going like tapering off one med and then tapering on to another,
Mm-hmm.
we started seeing symptoms, and it was all
Mm-hmm.
being documented. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's why this no medication thing with zero indication of anything is just so unbelievable to me, because it's shocking. Like, it truly is shocking that they're all just chalking it up to what? I don't know. None of them
Yeah.
have ever, none of the evaluators have talked at all about how it's even
Mm-hmm.
possible. They
Yeah.
then say,
Nope.
"Oh, well, it could be PTSD with psychosis." So where did the psychosis go? Because she still got
Mm-hmm.
PTSD.
Right.
So it just, well, and now they're not even talking about it, right? I think most recently they're not talking about the symptoms at all. They're just talking about autism.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
And yes, Iowa Med holiday only under supervision of doctors.
I would think so. Yeah.
Yes.
Michael, so what would happen in the community? She has no high school diploma or GED. That's another thing. Did she get a GED? Did you hear anything about her? I know they were saying her education was limited, but did she actually get a diploma
I
or a
don't
GED?
remember. I know
Yeah.
in her, like, one of her hearings, not the one from today,
Mm.
they were talking about, "Oh, look, she's got all A's," or her mom was talking about it or something like that.
Yeah,
And
that's
she was
right.
like 3
Yeah.
hours a day of school. It's possible she's gotten her GED. They have school programs.
Yeah.
You can also, like, do write-in work to certain colleges and get degrees.
Mhm.
Um, but, like, prisoners do that all the time.
Mhm. Right.
And
Yeah.
even still, there are plenty of people in this country without a diploma or a GED that have jobs. And
That is true.
if she wants to be a janitor, that's not gonna require either one of those. So,
Right.
it's
Right.
just about finding realistic opportunities with what she has. And maybe
Mhm.
part of that, if she doesn't have her GED, maybe that's, I have had patients who, when they get, or when they're signing their terms and conditions, part of their goal is to actually get a GED. That's like a
Mhm.
requirement of the program, which is great.
Mhm.
And I mean, these people are like in their 70s.
Mhm.
So, and so
Right.
even they want them to dedicate time to something, because idle
Mhm.
hands, and there's truth to that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Mallory, what about the attempted deletion? She's not insane or schizophrenic. So, what 10 years of manipulating the system is her sentence? This makes me so mad. Sorry, but WTF. Yeah, what? Okay, so she can't go back. She can't go to prison, right? Because Northwest is
Right.
saying, right, because she's not guilty, reason of insanity.
Right.
So where does she end up? Where, you have to somehow address that she did attempt to take out Peyton. So what do we do with her? What would you
Well,
do with
but
her?
that's already been addressed, right? That's been adjudicated in a court of law as she is acquitted because of insanity. And so that's where that goes. It's just like
Right,
saying they were found not guilty only
right,
because of the RI part, the reason of insanity.
right,
She doesn't get let free the same way, like when we see people, oh, not guilty, they just, okay,
right,
thanks for
right.
stopping. You don't have to pay
Yeah,
your court fees now, and sorry about all this. Like,
right, right.
you know, um, she has consequences even to that acquittal, which, as
Hmm.
she should, right? And as
Hmm.
people should if they're NGRI. Because, yeah, she attempted to take someone's life in a very brutal way.
Hmm.
But yeah, she can't go back to prison, or back to prison. She hasn't even been to
She just
prison. She can't go to
can't. Yeah.
prison because that is what an NGRI keeps them from.
Hmm.
Now, I was sort of thinking, like, man, I kind of, and this is going to sound terrible, so I kind of don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Hmm.
I kind of wish they would give her some charges for cutting off her tether and AWOLing to another
Hmm.
state, because I know cutting off your tether is a crime.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's like a felony, I think,
Hmm.
because then I think she could do a little time on a new
Hmm.
charge. But
Yeah.
because it's an offense that occurred under her terms and conditions of release under her commitment,
Mm-hmm.
I think what they would do is the DA probably would not pick it up and say,
Mm-hmm.
well, if she's just going to go back to the hospital anyway, like, she's already, what's the point in putting her behind bars when she's already behind
Mm-hmm.
walls?
Right.
Like, that happens when, like, patients commit new offenses. Usually it's like assault in the
Hmm.
hospital. I tell them all the time, if you do that, you can catch a new charge. They can absolutely prosecute you and you can go to prison this time. What happens is the DA will be like, they're already locked up. we're not
Mhm.
we're not piling another one onto the docket. Just
Right.
like let it go. Deal with it
Right.
there. So that's
Right.
probably what'll happen to her, I would imagine. And it's
Right.
great she didn't hurt anyone. So we can all be
Yeah.
thankful for that. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, given time, I know a lot of people in chat were saying over time, what would she do? Would she end
that
up?
was my concern. Like if she wasn't found,
Yeah.
would she have gone like where was she headed? Was Chicago her destination? Or was it just
Nashville?
where she was staying?
Thought?
Oh, she wanted to go to
I
Nashville?
think it was Nashville. I think I read Nashville, if
For
I'm not
what?
mistaken. Unknown. Hold on. Well, okay, let's get to this question,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'll look because I have an article from Wisconsin Public Radio. Anyway, all right. Gina says, "What's her fascination with escaping and running away to the Slender Man mansion, and then this time to nowhere? Can
Oh,
you
apparently
opine as
maybe
to?"
maybe she's gonna tell us that Slender Man moved to Nashville. I don't know.
Right.
Wouldn't that be something? So, I don't know. I'm hoping that maybe in her next evaluation, they will
Right.
ask. Because yeah, that is very interesting. I think so in her case, when her and Anissa, went to Slender Mansion or whatever, um, they were saying that it was because now that they thought that they have taken Peyton's life, they were going to go to Slender Mansion and be welcomed with his, gangly giant open arms and live there in prosperity or something like that. I think that was kind of the shtick that they were giving, or at least
Mhm.
that Morgan was giving, because I kind of think Anissa believed it.
Mhm.
But this time, I think she just doesn't without a lot of information, I will say, I think she just doesn't like rules.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
now that she's like has some freedom, she wants to capitalize on that. And she's
Mhm.
young and
Mhm.
she, formed this inappropriate relationship with a much older person who she probably shouldn't have because clearly they're on board with this kind of behavior. So it's not a pro-social relationship.
Mhm.
And so like she needs pro-social support systems and more containment around her so that again that
Mhm.
middle kind of step and better peer
Right.
support that's actually supportive of like pro-social behaviors
Right.
or not
Right.
what we call offense supported beliefs, so someone who's going to be like, yeah, let's go on the run. Like
Yeah.
no.
Right. Right. Well, the
You need
doctors were
someone saying,
talking.
hey Morgan, that's not a great idea, why don't we stay home and play Monopoly, like
Right. Right. Yeah. And the doctors were talking about because the high profileness of the case, people were calling in, and she formed this relationship with the 63-year-old who was
oh
getting
yeah,
off on her,
crime,
charges or whatever it was, or crime. Yeah. So, I mean,
yeah.
I have another word for it, and I'm not going to say it because it's a bad word, but star effers,
Oh yeah.
that's basically, that's what
Groupies.
groupies, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Kathy, do they still use the term criminally insane?
Yeah. Now we kinda call
Yeah.
it like, I mean,
There's
I
got to
think
be a
that term earlier, actually. I think we do it, like, legally insane. But yeah, the word
okay,
insane is not guilty by reason of insanity, and
right,
so that's still the term.
right. Awesome potamus. I love saying that word. APD, BPD, and MPD to the extreme. Okay, what are those?
Eh, oh, I think it's antisocial, borderline, and narcissistic.
Okay. I highly doubt she has the life skills to succeed on her own. I would probably agree to that. I fully expect her to reoffend to get replaced in a structured setting. She is dangerous.
Well, now I didn't fully hear what the results of her MMPI were today,
Mhm.
but thus far I've not heard anything about a personality disorder. That's not to say she doesn't have one, but
Mhm.
some sort of traits. But then again, she's taken these tests before, right?
Mhm.
I don't think she is narcissism. I think that's a highly overused term. People can be a
Mhm.
jerk and break rules without being a narcissist.
Mhm.
Borderline, I don't know. I don't have enough information for that one. And antisocial, again, just because she kind of likes breaking rules. I don't know.
Mhm.
Maybe it's one of those other other specified with borderline and antisocial traits. But I don't think she's old enough to actually like really ethically make a diagnosis of a personality disorder, because really they're supposed to be pervasive through the lifespan so far. And her brain is still developing at this point.
Mhm.
So to like slap a personality disorder diagnosis on someone whose brain isn't even done yet, it's kind of irresponsible. It's not to say it doesn't happen, right? If someone meets criteria, they meet criteria. But
Mhm.
it's why we don't do it for people under 18, right? Because you're
Mhm.
kids.
Right.
But
Right.
she's 22 or 23. She's still got, for girls, like a year or two until her brain is fully formed. And then even
Mm.
from there, you have to start learning life with a fully formed brain.
Right.
So,
Right.
and you don't know what she'll be like outside of the institution, but at
Right.
least that'll be part of the pervasiveness of it. Does it exist both in the institution, in the group home, at work, out in the community, with family, with peers, like all those things? It can't
Mhm.
just be a behavioral thing. Like because she does these behaviors, therefore she's antisocial. That's not how it works. It's not a behavioral thing.
Mhm. Kathy Davis, are flashbacks a delusion? Are flashbacks a delusion?
Mm,
Well, wouldn't that be PTSD? Isn't that you're
yeah, so
triggered by?
there are flashbacks in PTSD. That's one of
Mhm.
the criteria.
Mhm.
Are they a delusion? So, are flashbacks a delusion? I would
Because
say
you,
no,
yeah, because you're
because,
remembering that moment versus, and that
well, so
happened to you.
delusions encode as
Mhm.
memories, right?
Mhm.
In our brains. That's how our brain, just says, oh, okay, I'm going to store this in the memory file because I remember that happening, even though it wasn't real to anybody else.
Right.
Um, a flashback. Well, and so I say no because a delusion is pervasive like the whole time. Whereas a
Mhm.
flashback is like a flash memory of a specific time when something happened. Now, well, and usually when people are like recalling delusions, they still believe it.
Mhm.
And they'll be like, yeah, that happened. Let me tell you all about it. And they'll tell you about it like a memory. But a
Mhm.
flashback is a very specific thing of like, oh, I'm having a flashback. It's not quite a That's So Raven moment where she, goes like that and like has a little flashback. Um, but it's like a re-experiencing is another
Mhm.
term for it. And that's why you see them in PTSD, and they can be triggered by like a car backfiring or a door slamming if someone, has trauma from being like on the front lines in the military during a wartime, or if someone is
Right.
in a drive-by shooting, for example. Every time, or they have been shot, right? Like every time, well, not every time, but like if a door slams and it scares them, that can trigger like a flashback to where for a moment they'll see themselves as like reliving that experience, and they will be genuinely scared. And then
Mhm.
someone usually has to kind of come and help, or if they've got, coping skills and have gone through the work and things like that, they can be like, no, this is okay. I'm in my home. There are my books. Like, here's my cat. Like, I'm safe,
Right.
that kind of a thing. But
Right.
a
Right.
delusion and a flashback, I would say are different. They're quite different. If that
Okay.
makes sense at all, what I just said.
Yeah, no, it does. Absolutely.
Okay.
Michael, knowing what you know, if you had to treat Morgan, how would you be able to trust what she says is true?
You wouldn't.
Yeah.
And that's the difficulty here that I keep having as well. I mean, just add it to the list, really.
Mhm.
Um, like they keep seeming, and again, I say seeming because we don't know. We just know what we're, having them testify to in hearing on the stand. It seems like they are just taking her word for it. And it's like,
Mhm.
but wait a minute, her word has been historically not reliable. So
Right.
why are you not questioning this more? And this is
Mhm.
coming from someone who admits to malingering. And then even prior testing shows, she didn't elevate any scales related to psychopathology. So any symptoms of mental illness, be it psychotic, be it mood disorder, be it even like hypochondriasis or whatever, or anxiety. She even said she malingered her anxiety. And so it's like, okay, someone who flip-flops so much, and even the data, as they keep saying, like I said with the Harry Potter thing, she was very flippantly talking about, almost like as if they were accolades, all the books she reads to this officer. And then suddenly she gets to the hospital and is getting evaluated to leave. And now all the Harry Potter characters are real and they're her friends. Well, why weren't they before? And so it's just this inconsistent reporting that makes her so unreliable that it's so surprising to me that it seems like these evaluators are just like taking her word for it. And I'm like, why are you doing that? Like, question everything. That is our job, is to question everything. And, I was taught in the forensic evaluation certification thing I had to do, I was taught always be ready to be surprised. Because you go in thinking one thing, be open enough that this person can surprise you when it's right in front of your face and they tell you or they show you. And so, it's like, read the records, read all about this, start formulating it. But when you go in, don't be biased and don't be closed off and don't have blinders on. Let them surprise you. And that's happened to me a number of times. I'll go into competency evaluations, having read the police report, and I'm starting to, I'm like, oh boy, this person, or I'm like, oh, this person seems kind of fun, or, whatever. And then I'll like meet them and I'm like, wow, they are so different. And sometimes it's lovely. Sometimes they just scream at me the whole time. And other times I have gone in thinking, oh, this person is just full of it. Like, let's see. And then I'm like, wow, this person I think is more ill than even their attorney sees. But thank God they, referred them for a competency evaluation because, oh boy. Yeah, it's like always letting yourself be surprised and not have those blinders and bias on from your own work with that person, especially after 10 years. And so it seems to me like they have real blinders for their trust in her. And I don't understand why that is.
All right. We have two more starred, but Aaron's asking me to look at something, but I can't see it yet. Okay, let's continue on with this. Two more questions, and then we'll let you go. Unless there's, I think we can wrap it up. All right. Widespread. Is it possible that she's changing her presentation as she changes her mind on what her mental illness of choice is at a given moment?
She's changing her presentation. I mean, it seems that way, doesn't it? It really seems that way. It seems like, well, and what's interesting too is, so not only is she backpedaling on the malingering, but when she had that outburst in therapy of like, and called Anissa the B word, and like, and then when she's sort of challenged on that by the evaluator, or I think maybe it was it the therapist that challenged her? Well, she was challenged on it by the evaluator and I think the therapist, but then she said, but this was after the fact. It was like the next session or something. It wasn't in the moment, as far as I remember. And she backpedaled and said, oh, I meant it this way. I meant, how could a person not feel anything after doing like that? Not that I didn't feel anything. You sure about that? Because I would believe your emotional response more than this one that you've had a week to think about. But also in her police interview, the officer asked her like about the story of like really just how it kind of happened, like who said what, how did she get the knife, like all these sorts of things. And she was blaming it all on Anissa, pretty much. And then he asked her again, like, oh, so you said that Anissa did this. And she goes, oh, well, I got confused. Again, backpedaling. And he was like, what did you get confused about? And she could not formulate an answer on the spot. And so same with her presentation in the hospital, I would imagine, like, the distress when she's being told her plans aren't realistic. Instead of thinking of something else on the spot, she just oh, I'm just not going to do this anymore, and gets so distressed and crying and this and that and the other, like you said, like Shanda.
Right.
And so it's like, and then she like won't go to groups, I think they said, because like, I don't know, she didn't like it or something like that. And so there's like this lack of, well, I would say concern for one, but it's like, I don't know if it's a lack of self-awareness, because I do think she knows what's going on. I think she has this very calculating approach, and I say calculating for her age, right? Like over time. And it seems like they've kind of gotten more sophisticated over time and over the number of hearings where they're literally telling her essentially to her face in court, well, we would like to see you do this. Then she does it, but she does it to the extreme. So again, like the Dr. Collins said, I would like to see her get a job. So she gets multiple jobs the next year. And so she then just takes all of this, which is great. We want to see you make changes that are good, but also, how are you now changing your entire presentation to get new diagnoses? Like, that is such an extreme that I can't imagine it to be genuine. After all this time, you're telling me they didn't know you had autism after sitting with you for 10 years?
Right.
I just don't believe it. And so it just seems very calculated, which, okay, she's got a motive to get out. Okay. If that's what, okay.
Right.
But at least maybe stay out if that's what you're looking for.
All right, this came in a while ago, and it was talking about being evil and subhuman. So, Rebel Spirit, I wish I could ask you, okay, about your understanding of evil and why you assume treating evil would necessarily be subhuman.
Well, because evil, I mean, it's because how do you treat evil?
Right.
If someone is evil, right, then they're essentially like a demon. And that's not a human being, right? And so it's demoralizing to them as a human, and it makes them subhuman. So how do you then treat a subhuman person if you believe that of them? You throw them in a dirty cellar and lock away the key, right? Or you execute them. I don't know if I can use that word. And so it's like, if you dehumanize someone, it makes the treatment of them also dehumanized. Now, it's different if you say things like, this person is high on the psychopathy scale. Okay, how do we work with a psychopath? Okay, well, what are the 4 facets that fall into an assessment of psychopathy, and where do we need to work the most in order to manage this so they don't hurt anybody, right? Because we can't cure it, we can't medicate it. Same with antisocial PD, same with borderline, right? We can medicate borderline for mood stability. But the other pieces, the attachment issues, the interpersonal problems that stem from that, and then the way that they behave and treat people as a result of that, that doesn't make them evil. It means they have a problem, a clinical problem that we can treat, and then we focus on treating those issues. We don't just say, this person is an evil demon. Because what do you do with that? If you throw them away like that, there's no treatment for an evil demon. There's nothing but tossing them away and forgetting about them forever. And I don't think that way. And like you said, yeah, people do evil things, right? But we don't treat their red rum. That's not what we're treating. We're treating the human and what is going on in them so that this doesn't happen again, rather than the evil done to someone else. If that
you see that. It does. Yeah. Well, you see that in war and propaganda. You dehumanize the enemy so that it's easier to kill them, easier to take them out. Because if you realize that that person that's in your sights of your weapon actually has a family and kids waiting for them back home, you're less likely to pull that trigger. So you dehumanize them, so you see that a lot in war.
Right.
So,
yep.
All right. Let's see. Okay. I'm going to stop it. Okay. Kelly, I was going to pull up one before that, but let's get to Kelly. What do you think about the sudden gender dysphoria?
Ooh, I have thoughts about this.
Yeah.
I don't know if we should talk about it here. I think it's right up there with the sudden autism.
Yeah.
and the sudden remission
Mm-hmm.
of psychotic symptoms that just disappeared. I think it's convenient. I think she's young. I do agree when they say that she's impressionable. Anybody at 22 is impressionable, right? Mental illness or not. And so I think, I would want to know like who introduced her to that. Like, did another peer come in who had that or thought they had that or was being evaluated for, whatever. Like, where did she get the idea for this? Because I don't think it was organic. I think it was something she read or saw on TV because they don't have internet, or someone in one of her letters or something talked about it. I think the seed was planted from an external source, whether or not it was like harmless and well-meaning, like she read it in a book or, whatever, or saw it on TV or something like that. So I think, I don't really want to go into it because it gets a little political, but I think, we're in a culture, like going back to the social media trends of everybody's got ADHD, everybody's got OCD, everybody's got autism now, everybody's got PTSD. No, they don't. But it's trendy and it makes you feel like you have an in-group to say that you have that too. And it's then if you think of like all of the pharmaceutical commercials, it's like that, what is it, the Barnum effect? They say just enough that you're like, oh, I think I have that. And so then you go to your doctor, you're like, I saw this commercial. I swear I have every single one of those things. And it's like, well, there's a little more to it than that. No, you don't. And it's kind of like horoscopes. Sorry, folks. Horoscopes are just the Barnum effect. They're broad enough that everybody can believe and relate. And I think that's what social media is now, unfortunately, doing with very serious mental illnesses. Like even depression can be quite serious. And so to call every sadness a depression is just like, and I think that is most likely what's going on with Morgan, although without the social media stuff, again, that's why I kind of wonder like where it came from.
Right. Well, it could be just her trying to fit in too. Maybe she found something and she's identifying with it for whatever reason, and she's just trying to find her niche.
Totally.
So, I guess, I mean, I don't really fault her for it per se, because I think she's still just kind of trying to find her way,
Right. Yeah.
All right. Last question. Although Barry, you posted something about DEMA, but I can't find it right now. So if you could repost that, Barry, and then that'll be our last one. Sharon, is it possible she does things for attention/shock reactions? Is it possible that she does that?
I mean, it's possible.
Anything is, right? Yeah.
Right. The shock part, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't really peg her as much of like, I'm doing this to shock people kind of a thing. I think the attention seeking, right. When you think of kids who malinger, oftentimes it's because they want attention that they are not getting, right? Like at home, like maybe they're feeling something that they can't communicate. They don't quite understand, but they know that, oh, if whenever I, act out or throw my toys against the wall or something like that, like mom and dad pay attention. And so then they sort of go with that. Like kids are pretty smart when it comes to like adapting to their environment to meet their most kind of basic survival needs.
Absolutely.
And so kids, there were a couple questions about like, could a 12-year-old really malinger? Yeah. It might not have the same value as like an adult that's like, hey, I'm going to pull the wool over them, but like they absolutely can malinger, and they can do it because they're not getting a need met. Or, maybe they're trying to be a 12-year-old who doesn't like juvie, right? Because every time she was put in juvenile detention awaiting her sentencing, she acted out. She hurt herself so that she could go to the hospital where it's more comfortable. She can get sleepy meds. She can have better food. She can wear her own clothes. Although maybe not at that level. Like when they do like that level of psychiatric inpatient stabilization, she probably wasn't in her own clothes. But it is interesting again, like she didn't like juvie. So anytime she wanted to leave,
Mm-hmm.
she acted out to go to the hospital. And then she ended up staying there because they're like, oh, she's just too unstable for juvie. Like, look what it does to her every time. And she's so psychotic and this and that.
Right.
So I do think there's some attention seeking, but I don't characterize it in the same way that I might for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've all faked being sick. I remember doing
Of
that
course.
on dare days. I hated that. It was so boring. I was like,
Yeah.
Mommy, I got a tummy ache every Wednesday? You caught me.
Right. All right. Last question from Barry, and of course,
Oh gosh, Barry, of course.
Would Dima and Morgan be a Tinder match? What would their date night be like?
Oh gosh. You know, that would actually be really interesting because they're both such like dominant people. But he's dominant in this, and I hope this doesn't come off wrong, but this is just from my personal several years experience with Eastern European males, and females, I guess, in general, kind of like family units. He has that very overly masculine, like very Eastern European male dominance, whereas she has more of this kind of, which we do see this in women and girls. It's more like a cunning kind of like, I really hate to say it this way, but it's appropriate, kind of stab you in the back kind of a way. That she's got that. Whereas he's like, "Rrr," and she's kind of like a snake. And so it would be really interesting to see like
that dynamic.
Like who can out dominate who, and like who would.
Well, like, she would allow him to think that he was dominating her, but in reality, she would be, meanwhile, she's manipulating him in the background. Yeah.
So he's like the emotional reactor, and she's like that.
Right. So do you think she'd turn into a mean girl if she didn't do what she did to Peyton? Do you think ultimately she would have turned into a mean girl in high school?
No,
like at 15, 16?
Like the classic kind of mean popular girl. I don't think so. I think she would have been that kind of like weird safety pin wearing. And sorry, not to generalize. I'm just going by my own experience of what I remember from high school. Not me, but what I've seen. But like that kind of like, just like the weird kids that hang out in the corner and like then
the kind of kids I want to hang out with.
Sure. But like you were probably nice about it. Like some of the kids would be like, and I'm sure it comes from a place of self-preservation and defending themselves and this and that. And like they would just kind of be really rude to you. Even when you like try to be nice, and it's like, whoa, never mind. Like I sort of get the vibe from her that if she hadn't done any of this and stayed the course of her life without any stabby stabs or anything like that, I think she would be seen as kind of weird. Maybe
she already was.
Like
she already was considered an outcast or whatever. Oddball.
She was some really weird stuff. And I think she would have found her tribe in high school of other, because there was never like one single person. It's everyone has their clique. Even the outcasts have the outcast clique. Exactly. And so maybe that would have helped, or maybe it would have made it worse. And so but maybe the acceptance of that and knowing that there are people that think like her too, like maybe that would have been really helpful for her to have that validation, even of her kind of dark and weird stuff. But you never know.
Anissa, Aaron's reminding me that she was an oddball, or she was weird, or whatever label you want to put it. She was a like-minded thinker. That's why those two bonded, and they grew up, I guess, in elementary school. They lived in the same apartment complex, so they kind of found each other, and so they connected that way. So
interesting. Did she have those same kind of like dark, like cutting up your Barbie dolls?
I haven't seen any evidence. Haven't seen that yet. She was definitely into the creepypasta and the Slender Man. So she was in the horror, fictional stuff like that. So no, as far as I know, Morgan was the only one that was the visual artist that was drawing those
visual artist.
Well, such as it. I know Northwest doesn't like it. I think it's kind of I don't know. I haven't seen much of it. I have to have to try and find more of that. But
I
from what
mean,
I've
given
seen,
the context, I'd say.
well, given the context,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. All right, don't
Yeah.
think so, but she was into Slender Man first. Okay, yeah. So Anissa was into Slender Man first. That's what I thought too. So
yeah, and that's what's so crazy about exposing young people to things on the internet is there's no
mhm,
regulation, and so they can literally find anything.
mhm,
And oftentimes they will find what they hear other people talking about and be like, "Ooh, let me go look
mhm,
into that." And I mean, shoot, we see adults doing that in my specialty that I work in. They start at one place and it goes down a very dark hole and gets to another place on the dark web. And
mhm.
so, that's why, like, with a lack of regulations for kids, which how would you even do that without like age verification somehow? Is like they can go down any hole that they want to find. And they're at an age where they're so curious about everything because they're
Mhm,
probably hearing from their parents, well, I'll tell you when you're older, you're not old enough to watch that. And they're
mhm.
being like, all of this stuff they're so curious about is like hidden from them. And so
Right.
then they find it on the internet now, and then they end up
Mhm,
clicking on all sorts of things and going down pathways that like are well beyond their curiosity, which is
mhm.
like, okay, plenty of people were interested in Slender Man and like the whole creepy pasta thing. That's how it became so popular. But
Right.
not everyone ended up doing what they both did. And so it's like,
Mhm,
how did they get there? And what other content did that sort of Slender Man stuff lead them toward that was maybe
mhm.
even darker?
Right.
Um, yeah. So it's the internet's a scary place, especially
Mhm,
for kids.
mhm. Absolutely. Yeah. And then when you don't have the coping mechanisms or you don't have those things in place that to explain, hey, you shouldn't be looking at this, and B, if you did look at it, let's talk about it and let's
Right.
sort it out.
Right.
So yeah, it's
That's
Wild
why
West out there.
monitor kids' internet use. Always
Hmm.
read their diaries. I don't care if it's an invasion of privacy. Her
Hmm.
mom would have known she had these drawings if she would
Hmm.
have like read her journal.
Right.
And the same thing with Ethan Crumbly, right? He
Hmm.
had all these drawings in this notebook and then started drawing them at school. And the teachers were like, "Meh!" And lo and
Hmm.
behold, this has been happening for a while. And
Right.
so they'll get over that invasion of privacy.
Right.
They will get over it. It's for their benefit. It's so you
Mhm.
can know what is going on. And actually, yeah, like if they are interested in Slender Man, like, hey, why don't you tell me about Slender Man? Why don't you show me
Mhm.
some videos so that
Yeah.
you can
Let's.
maybe be like, seemingly interested in what your kid, but also monitoring them and also being like,
Mhm.
okay, well, that seems okay, but that like this isn't real, right? And so just doing
Mhm.
a little creative work there, I guess,
Right.
but
Right.
showing interest, giving them the attention they probably really want from their parent in their own,
Mhm.
little interests and stuff. And it's also
Absolutely.
keeping a much closer eye on them to protect
Mhm.
them. And there's also a lot of creepy people out there, so
Right.
gotta
Right. Yeah.
protect.
It's a bonding moment as well.
Yeah,
Trying to
totally.
bond with your child, and they bond with you, and I think that goes a long way.
Yeah. And it creates this level of like trust in a
Mm.
way of like, oh wow, I can really, show my mom or show my dad or show my grandma, whoever your caregiver is, like I can show them that. And they won't
Right.
get mad at me. They'll just want to talk about it. And that really
Right.
fosters this like open door policy rather than a
Mhm.
parent just saying, hey, come to me whenever you need. They're not going to do
Mhm.
that, especially
Right.
as a teenager, unless
Right.
you have already fostered that trust early on to where now they know I can go tell parent, caregiver that I'm feeling away, I'm having a thought, I found this thing on the internet, and I
Mhm.
can go tell them about it, and they're not going to yell at me or they're not going to reject me. They're going to actually listen and they're going to, maybe I can
Right.
show it to them and, see what they think and that sort of stuff. So it's like building a level of trust that you want to have with your kid as a parent, not as a friend.
Mhm. Mhm. Right. Right.
Oh, thanks, Michael.
Yeah. Thank you. In Northwest, I would say talk about it for sure, and don't overreact for sure, but don't act in a way
But
that
don't
would
be
like
dismissive.
and don't be dismissive. Yeah. And
Yeah.
don't make them feel a certain way, a
Right.
negative way. I would say.
Right.
And Barry, yeah, assuming your caregiver is a safe, reliable, trusted, responsible person. That is
Totally.
true. That is true,
Totally.
Barry. There's always that.
Yeah.
So, All right. I think I'm ready to call it a night. How about you?
I mean, we all know I could talk forever about this stuff, but I do have to get dinner for my cat. So,
Okay. Yeah. I think I just kicked one in the head. Are you okay?
oh
Are you? Oh, I think that's Riker down there. Oh,
no,
you know what?
TBI.
It's Sid. She likes these little springs, and she's chasing after a spring under
Oh,
my feet. So,
oh.
TBI. Listen to you. Are you bleeding? Do you need to go to the hospital? I think we have to take her to the vet. She's bleeding out of her nose. No,
Oh,
terrible, terrible. No, no, no. I don't want to
oh.
end it. Don't want to end it
Yeah,
like that. Here, let's
yeah.
end
Don't
it
put
this way.
that on the ether.
Come here, buddy. He had no clue. He wasn't involved in this, but here you go.
Oh,
Oh,
hi,
little man.
buddy.
Look up.
Oh.
Wait, I did it. Wait.
Hey.
He's like, what are you doing to me? All right. Thank you so much for being on. Had a great time,
Yeah.
great conversation. I have still tons of questions. I'm sure we'll have more tomorrow. So consider coming on again before we start new trials next week. We're going to finish up Morgan tomorrow, and then we're going to go to Anissa on Wednesday. Thursday is New Year's Day, so we'll be off Thursday, and then Friday and possibly Saturday. So
Bring
consider
my
it.
cat
And
got onto what I was saying.
everything isn't
Everything
trauma.
isn't trauma.
Everything isn't trauma, right? Well, we tend to make it, right? I guess we've gotten to the point where everything is about me, and I think it's always been about me, but it's just coming out in a different way, right? We've always been selfish, right? I mean, that's just human nature, is to be
Well, we've
selfish.
always been self-preserving. That's different
Yeah,
than selfishness. We've been about like survival of ourselves and our families and those that we,
yeah,
care about.
yeah.
Even our neighbors, we've been more neighborly.
Right.
Nowadays it's this.
Hmm.
What's
Yep. The
on my
zombies.
screen? Yeah.
Yep.
How many
Yep.
likes can I get? And how can you feed my ego so that I feel good about myself? Which is like, that's not
Right.
self-preservation. That's
Right.
a pathway to narcissism. But
Yeah. Well, the Beatles, I, me, mine, I, me, mine, the song. Yeah, I don't know. I think I've always seen society as selfish and preservating, but selfish too, because think back, thousands of years ago, you have your tribe, which is basically your family, and you see the other tribe on the other side of the hill. They've got the buffalo, and you've got nothing. I guess
self-preservation,
that self-preservation. Yeah. Okay.
survival.
Then on the other, well, then I guess, yeah. So if you have the buffalo and you see that other tribe coming for your buffalo,
You
yeah,
want to
that's
protect
self-preservation.
buffalo because that
That's
means you get to eat for a week or a month or however long a buffalo lasts. They're pretty big.
right,
So,
right. You get the
yeah,
analogy, but you're right.
yeah.
Self-preservation.
Selfishness has this extra component to it that's like,
Mhm.
I don't know quite the word to capture it, but it's like, it's
Mhm.
different than wanting the buffalo that your neighbor got because you couldn't get one and because you want to feed your family and survive the winter or the next month of the winter,
Mhm.
or you want to keep buffalo from getting stolen,
Mhm.
to survive, right?
Right.
Selfishness has this other sort of icky factor to
Oh,
it.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. No, there's more of the manipulative factor. There's
Yeah,
more
it's
of
like
like,
vindictive, kind of. It's
yeah,
very
yeah, yeah.
like, eh.
Right.
It's been a long day.
They swim together though, because if you're in a lifeboat,
They can.
and yeah, they definitely swim together.
Yeah, they can.
Those two things. Yeah.
Especially in things like, nowadays we don't need to save our buffalo.
Mhm.
So nowadays it can sort of morph into like what we see, well, like on Wall Street, right? Competitiveness. That's not survival.
Mhm.
That's like when you step on people at their expense to get yourself up higher. Like, why are you doing that? And it's different than climbing the corporate ladder because you work hard and you have gone to school and like all these things to earn it.
Mhm.
Earning to me is not selfish to want more for yourself and want to be successful. And like me, like I want to be successful because I spent how many years in college?
Right.
I spent most of my life in college so far, and I spent a lot of money to do it. So I don't think that makes me selfish to want to be successful and to have success. But then you have other people who will literally step on others to have success rather than take the long route of like earning it. So that is where I kind of see more of a selfishness.
Right. This would be more greed, I think. You know, your buffalo is more better quality than my buffalo, so I'm going to come over and take your buffalo. Even though we both could feed our tribes, but your buffalo is better, so I think that falls more into greed, right?
Yeah, and just like maybe they are both the same type of buffalo. They're both a Wagyu, right?
Yeah.
But you just want both.
Right.
So you're going to take it.
That's
you
greed.
don't want the other. Yeah, that's greed and selfishness, right? That's greed.
Yeah,
I have 10 buffaloes and won't even share a meal with you.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, self-preservation, because you may be hunkering down for the winter, and you have
maybe they're the last 10 buffalo of the season, and you've got a big old family.
Yeah. Teenage boys, they each out of house and home.
Yeah, I'm stealing everyone's buffalo. Is this going to be a thing now? I kind of hope.
I guess so, probably. All right. And with that, we will say goodnight.
All right.
All right. Thank you again for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you in chat tomorrow, dropping more fantastic wisdom on our chat and educating us. And we love you for that. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me and allowing me to share all that's going on in here with all of you.
Absolutely. Anytime. And again, let's talk offline about coming on again.
Sure.
In the next couple of days or so. So, all right. We'll have a good night. All right.
You too.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
All right. So with that, guys, we will say good night. Thank you again to Psychosaurus Rex. Thank you to our mods. Thank you to Aaron. Thank you, chat, for coming up with some fantastic questions. And I will leave you with that. And we will see you tomorrow, 9:00 Eastern. And let me find my outro here. Let's see. All right, guys, have a good night, and I will see you tomorrow. See if I can get this to play.